Okay, feels good. Right. Okay, have a seat. Do we have anyone who has any owies from yesterday that is going to restrict them or anything of that sort? Okay. Very good. So, without any further...
85% of stand-up confrontations end up on the ground. And that's why. 75% of 4-on-1 and 5-on-1 attacks end in death or permanent disability. Bruce Jones thinks it's actually a higher statistic than that. Jared's younger brother is alive today because he was trained to use an ASB baton, and that'll be one of the points I'm going to be making later on. He actually suffered a 5-on-1 attack, and those of you who have ever met Corey know that he's 6'1", 230 pounds, and the first guy who picked him up lifted him up with his hand on his throat and held him with his feet off the ground against a wall. So those are the kind of people he was dealing with. There's a risk that if you are out of the fight, you are out of the competition to protect yourself, there are others who will not be protected. That could include your wife, your daughter, your son, your mother. And if the situation is not reversed in 2 seconds, you can die. So that's what we want to address here. Jiu-Jitsu instructors and Jiu-Jitsu students, certainly at the brown belt level, you already have a boatload of techniques. Most attackers, street fighters, have about 3 to 5 things that they find works, and they use those exclusively. And they're predictable, especially in cases of assault on women, and that's the first scenario we'll deal with. We understand how to mentally as well as physically unbalance an attacker. That was an excellent lesson that some of you who weren't here yesterday certainly missed on how, and a crucial point in how to unbalance someone that Mark taught. We understand zones where we work best and where the other person works best. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu believes very strongly in getting people onto the ground. The Marine Corps, for a completely different reason, understands that 85% statistic of going to the ground, and they want to get off the ground as fast as possible. That's because they're dealing with not a one-on-one scenario, they're dealing with a one-on-many scenario. Generally, we're also very comfortable with going in tight, going in low, and we are also generally more determined because we have our own lives at stake and those that we want to protect at stake. So, without further ado, we'll be talking about headbutts at one point, the science of headbutting. Mark has a lot of experience in this, and we're going to be talking about 3 specific.
That's why my nose was.
That's why he has a strange look on his face today. We'll talk about 3 different kinds of headbutts and how to use them. And we'll talk about why, in most scenarios, you'll want to actually get your attacker onto the ground. So we're going to begin with the first scenario, and I think most people here know this, but we have a lot of female students in our dojo in Vancouver. It's about 60-40 in terms of female-male ratio. And one of the crucial things, because of my background, where I came from, the training that Bruce Jones gave, is that we want to make sure that all women who get in my dojo, by the time they get to yellow belt, they know, because they've been trained with 10 different scenarios of how to defend against those by reflex. Because you'll never fight from your cerebral cortex. So the first...
Can I, before you go on past the statistics, I just want everybody to be clear that statistics, you got to understand, where it comes from.
That we read exactly that.
Right.
This is from intelligence investigators, federal investigators overriding experience. Exactly his point. Crime statistics in the U.S. have very limited value. Statistics have been suppressed when they interfere with the political objective. Most federal investigators say that they have actually seen that happen. Only a handful of the hundreds of investigation reports are actually entered into crime statistics. Why, you might ask? Victims usually refuse to sign a statement that they will agree to testify. They're afraid of retaliation. They don't want their jobs messed with. They don't want to have to take the time to show up in court. Just that simple. That's an extremely good point. And that's why I spent a lot of time doing this research, and most of it comes from either federal investigators with experience or from the Marine Close Combat Training Support. experience. So we're going to begin our first, and I should also mention, Carlo Urso started this program, and then he began the MICMAP program, the Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. There's not a single Japanese word in any of their training scenarios. One of them that I brought here, if you're interested in it, is called the face rip technique. And it doesn't mean ripping a face, it just means how to get out from underneath somebody by a head turning technique, and I can show that to anyone who's interested. I also have brought in the folder here a lot of printouts from that program that you can look at. They also emphasize people who have won Navy crosses and why, and what lessons can be taught from that. So we're going to begin with the first scenario, and I'm going to demonstrate it with Jared, and then we're going to have everyone practice it. I think most people know this particular scenario, but it's the first one I teach my students. And one form of an assault begins by grabbing a hair, coming up on somebody, especially a female who was foolish enough to be jogging in a remote area wearing earbuds. I actually have to restrain my wife as we go jogging along the Lacamas Lake Trail when she sees some woman jogging along with earbuds in her ears. Don't stop her, don't get in her face about this. She feels that strongly about it. Grab by the hair, smash into the face, and subdue them. I am aware of 2 female Taekwondo black belts who have been raped. One in Portland about 3 months before we arrived, one in Dallas-Fort Worth just in 2007. In both cases, they were smashed in the face, and they were gotten to the ground, and they had no experience with ground fighting. And that was it. So this scenario imagines Jared grabbing me by the hair without my knowing about it, and then trying to smash me in the face. As soon as I feel the grab to my hair, and this is the reflex we teach our students, at the moment you feel that grab, you do this. Among other things, this protects your face. He can't punch me nearly as easily. He can hurt me, but he can't disable me. I don't grab the wrist, I grab the hand. It doesn't make any difference which direction I go, but I start turning. Tap. Tap loud. Okay. This ear doesn't hear very well. I'm going to review that again and we'll turn it around. You'll come over here and I'll go this way. And I'll stand back about here. He grabs this. By action, these are frames. This protects my face immediately. And then I can either go this way or this way. It doesn't make any difference. And that's a crucial, important point. And I hang on. But what we teach our women students is you don't do that slowly. You do it faster. You just keep going until the rotator cuff is torn out. So let's go ahead and practice this.
Can I borrow something? Mark Jordan does this in his class all the time. This is one of the reasons I enjoy working with Zoe. I brought her to a self-defense seminar I taught at a yoga studio last year. This is one of the techniques we reviewed. It's a great one. You know what we're doing, right?
The hair grab?
Yeah, turn around. So I'm actually going to grab her hair. The reason I don't want to do this with Jeff Sensei is because his thumbs have been broken so many times. Come back this way a little bit to the camera. And go. Keep going. Keep going. And she's just going to keep going until I'm up against the wall. And I'm really tapping. Now, you don't have to do it that hard in class, but I wanted to demonstrate that there is a continuation to that rolling. It's not just getting the person in a locking standing technique, but it's getting to the ground. It's rolling with them. It's rolling faster than they roll. And if you get them up against the wall, it's rolling them up against the wall until they're really tapping loudly like I was doing.
The next scenario actually happened to me. Thomas may even remember, may have seen, no, you probably haven't been to the particular grocery store. There's a giant grocery store in Sterling, Virginia. I was a Shodan at that point. I drove into a parking place and I saw, the parking place on the other side is open. So I can drive all the way through instead of having to worry about backing up over a 2-year-old. Which always worries me about, in fact, I usually will slowly back into a parking place so that I can drive forward out. As I drove and I just was coming to closure, a pickup went and stopped, and I thought, goodness. and he was coming in at an odd angle, not like he was trying to park. And then jerked back, came up like this, rolled the window down, and a very large man, I'll tell you how large in a minute, stuck his head out the window, referred to me, my mother, and 2 different animals, all at the same sentence. Very, very rough language. He was very upset, obviously. So I put the car in, I stared for a minute, and he would already pull sideways, and he went, and pulled into a parking place that was at least maybe 6 meters farther away from the store. At that point, I'm just kind of pondering this, and I put the car in park, and I pull on the emergency brake, and I reach over and I get my fabric bags, and I start to get out, and I got to the front of the car when this individual was already on me. And he was easily 6'7". And I'm 5'8". He outweighed me easily by 70, 80 pounds. And he came up at me like this. "You took my blankety blank parking place." And my first reaction, because of my training, was to bend my knees, bring my hands up in masked frames like this, just so that they're there. And I said, "I am so sorry that I took your parking place. I didn't see the name on the parking place. I am so ashamed at taking your personal parking place." And the man stopped and stared at me for a minute as he was trying to register the sarcasm or what was coming out. And at that point, a gust of alcohol nearly knocked me down. Now, this scenario ended without contact in a rather hilarious way, and I'll share that with you at the end. But I'm going to show you how I was just about to deal with that scenario. I told you about the Tasmanian Devil, Jiu-Jitsu. How many of you have ever seen a Tasmanian Devil, by show of hands? Oh, that's remarkable. Well, for those of you who haven't, it's an animal about this long, and about this much of it is a fang factory. You have never seen jaws open 120 degrees until you've seen and you can't count the many teeth on a Tasmanian Devil. When the European explorers first got to Tasmania, they were taught early on a great deal of fear for a Tasmanian Devil. A Tasmanian Devil had a reputation no matter who attacked it or who threatened its pups. It did one thing: it went for the genitals. And that is a tradition that continues through Australia to this day. And they'll tell you that if you go through the Sydney Featherdale Zoo. That's one of the things they'll tell you about Tasmanian devils. So, with that in mind, if you want to distract somebody and get their attention, their key focused on something else, this is what you will do. So he's coming after me with a threat, and I forgot another exercise. Tony, will you come and stand next to me? Sure. Could everybody stand and do the following exercise? This is a Goju double block. You're going to basically, it's like slicing in your elbow, and then slicing in your elbow, slicing in your elbow, open hands, slicing in your elbow, faster, faster. Now, stop for a minute and look at what that's protecting. That is covering from here to here. All of the important stuff. You can take injuries here, you can take injuries here, you can take injuries here, and you can still continue. This is what's protecting. So what I'm going to do is that Goju block to go in on this. Thank you.
And this is just for closing, correct?
This is for only for getting in. This is because I need to get past that fist. And I have a pretty high statistical chance, but I'm not going to put a number on that for getting past that fist. So I'm going to go in like this, blocking to stop that, and then I'm going to come in with my shoulder here, my hand chopping up into here, and my left knee here, all at the same time. So I'm doing three things: shoulder to the gut, arm chopping into here, and knee into the thigh pad. And then, with that thigh pad, I'm going to hook and take him down. And when I fall on him, I'm not going to protect him like this. I'm going to fall with joints on soft tissue. And I'm going to climb to his face. And the last thing I want to do is a smash to the jaw. The holy grail is to break that jaw. If this person is going to be threatening my life and I think that I have only one chance, I need to stop the fight there. And this is where we're going to talk about headbutt science. We have a living expert here.
Can I get you to back up in the center?
I'm grabbed by both hands at the same time. The guy outweighs me, and he obviously wants to do damage. If my hands are free, there are several things I can do. One is this, and the other is this. There's three kinds of headbutt. For those of you who can see, this is a British hooligan's headbutt. We're going to practice this, but we're going to practice this with great safety precautions. To do that, Jared is going to put his hand here, palm out, facing me. I'm going to put my hand here, facing him, and I'm going to barely touch. Now, this is one kind of a headbutt. That's another kind of a headbutt, if you drive with your whole body. There's another kind of a headbutt, and that's called, I guess we call it a rising headbutt, or is that another?
The Scottish one's another, yeah, rising
Okay.
headbutt, yeah.
And that's when I'm threatened, I go in low, and then I crash up like that. And to do that, and I'm going to insist that everybody say hand in place, hand in place, hand in place, hand in place. Okay, hand in place, hand in place. Is to drive up with the intent to take the person out of the jaw. Okay, so hack and bang. Okay, he's already got you in close. You can't get much closer. If you're really close, you might get an angle shot. And what you're going for would be the orbitals, the nose, and especially this point of the jaw right here. And have a can of soup in your gear bag. Okay, we'll go ahead and begin practicing this.
At one point, the reason practicing headbutts is so dangerous and it's easy to make mistakes is because the essence of doing the headbutt requires you to take your eyes off the target. The other strikes that we use, we're watching, we're looking right at the target. We know when to stop and when to pull our punch and how far we can go. But as soon as you take your eyes off the target, you can't really judge how far you're going. So that's why practicing them are so dangerous, and that's why we don't practice them a lot, but you do need to know how to do them. And that's a good way to practice.
Mark also made an interesting point that I want to make sure everyone here understands. In the last scenario, one of the possibilities is that the attacker will actually fold over me when I come in with the strike. In order to make sure that that doesn't happen, when you drive in with your shoulder, you have to really drive in. You're not just going bump like that. You're crashing in to take that person back. You need to make sure that there's absolute momentum, kiwi, in that direction.
Get your kiwi right.
Get your kiwi right.
May I, for the camera, do one more demonstration for the ladies? Courtney, I need to borrow you. This is the safety demonstration. I want to make sure that we implement this safety as we do it, since we're distracted and talking about other things. Courtney, I'm going to grab her like I'm shaking her and beating her up. She's going to go in low and hit me. Sure, any way you want. Well, any way you want. You shouldn't want to hit me.
Groin strike.
That's mainly done.
So she's going to come in and do this. I'm going to put my hand on her head. She's going to wait until my hand is on her head. I'm going to say hand in place. She's going to say hand in place. But the main thing is, as uke, I'm going to put my hand on her head. I'm the uke. She's going to wait until it's on the head. Then she's going to drive her head into my jaw. Go.
At quarter speed.
Stand up with your legs and slam your head into my mouth. Slam, like simulate slam, slowly.
Quarter speed.
Bam! And that's what she's going for. And that's the headbutt. I want my hand on her head so that I feel her head coming. And she's going to still feel an impact, but it's not going to be the impact of her head at quarter speed. She's going to feel it through my hand. And that's the safety practice. So we're going to do it again. And I'm beating her up. She feels my hand on her head, drives up into my jaw. Because my hand is on her head, notice I clench my jaw because I don't want my tongue sticking out through my teeth like it is when I talk. Because that's the point of this headbutt. That's one of the side effects of this headbutt at the very least. Third time, very important. Do this when you practice. And this is very quick. It's a sudden thing. She comes in low. She waits until my hand is on her head. And she has
You don't want to be caught, Jared.
boom! In speed. But quarter speed, it's just when the hand is on the head, into the mouth. Hey, thank you.
Let's go ahead and begin practicing. Scenario was worked out by the close combat support training group by the Marines. Bruce Jones spent 4 years working with him during this research phase. The MIC-MAP program followed, and it is so indigenous that they actually practice with tomahawks. Not a single Japanese word in anything that they teach. The belt ranks are even different. It starts out with a tan, and then it's gray, and then it's green, then it's brown, and then it's black. And you can only go to 6th Dan of black. And they wear simply a little ribbon, just a single ribbon on their military fatigue belt with that color. You can only go to 6th Dan, and that correlates with your rank once you get to Shogun, or first level. They don't even call it Shogun, they just call it first degree black. You have to be a master gunnery sergeant or a lieutenant colonel to achieve, and trained all the way up through, and provide training to get up to that 6th level of black belt in the MIC-MAP program. Now, Cardo Urso, when he retired from the Marines, the commandant himself came down to present him his papers to honor him for what he brought to the Marine Corps. And as I talked earlier, everything that they've done is informed by what they interpret as what they have to deal with in threats, and it's one on many. Cardo Urso right now is the the head instructor of the U.S. Air Marshals program in New York right now. Probably making a lot more than he did as a Marine. Let's make it as close as we can to 10 meters.
Okay, so you may want to actually go for an angle with the camera.
Yeah, 10 meters is a taller test.
And I'm going to do this just
That's a
once
taller
because
test.
of the stenosis in my back to make the point for the distance. Could I get you to stand here? Okay. Can you get enough angle, Michael?
You don't even have 30 feet in here. I mean,
Okay. So
that's as
actually,
good as we're going to get. I got it.
This is actually where I did what we did our training about consistency. Okay. Point out, are you right-handed?
Yes.
How many people are right-handed? 90%.
On the left.
There's a couple
Evil.
of lefties. Corey's dangerous. He's dangerous. Here's another
We're
dangerous.
the dangerous ones. I'm in a position where a person is taunting me. He's telling me he's going to kill me, but he wants to enjoy it. This happens in Afghanistan. believe it or not. This happens in downtown D.C. And as a statistic that is useful, but only for Washington, D.C., a handgun confiscated by police in Washington, D.C. has a 40% chance that it will not fire. It's either never been serviced, it is loaded, the safety is on, or there's some mechanical reason why it won't fire. So your best bet, if you see a gun, is to run like hell. And what direction do you run? You run the direction you came in because you know it's open.
Right.
Okay, so that's your best bet. If you're in a situation where you can't, this is what the Marines researched out. I'm going to make two moves. The first is I'm going to lunge like this, and he's going to swing to shoot. And then the second one is I'm going to swing like this and come in here and kick at his forearm. See where my arm is here? I kick the forearm. By this time, 2 shots have been fired statistically. And then I'm simply going to roll and take him down. And then the same scenario of crawling up the face towards the golden retriever, or the Holy Grail, which is a jaw retriever. Okay, so let me explain why that works. I'm right-handed. My bicep is stronger than my tricep. I'm tense, and I can see the guy starting to move. What am I going to do? I'm going to do this. And statistically, I will overshoot. And then I'm going to make another shot, an undershot, and I will actually lag behind him. I'll lead the first shot and lag the second time. And by that point, I've been kicked, and he's come in, and he's got an arm behind me, and he takes me down. The reason that works is because the person you're working with, what you know, that person has a stronger bicep, and he's going to overreact because he's not a trained shooter. Okay, let's go ahead and practice that scenario.
Two things. Number one, in terms of practice, please even in here, do not put your finger
Oh, yes.
inside the trainer.
I just assumed that everyone
Yeah, yeah.
everyone knows
Straight-
straight.
You can't
finger
assume
outside.
that.
Okay, no finger in the hole. Okay.
Because of the room in here, we actually have very limited room, so I'd like everybody to line up on this side, please.
Second item, I ran across this when I was working for the state of Nevada in the 1980s. This movement came out of the California prisons because convicts had nothing else to do at the time, and they called it the grasshopper roll. And they can get in with a, now you're dealing with a automatic, they were dealing with a revolver at the time, but they can get into the person before they fired the second shot and do the exact same thing. And that's why part of the training for law enforcement officers in Nevada was they no longer were trained to shoot up here at a suspect, they always shot low, because if the person goes down, they got him. Okay, so this just
Jump at 45 degrees, and I want to put a penny down there, just so you have more of a target for where your foot's going to land. So you're coming off way to the side, okay? Your next one is way off to this side.
But you're rotating as you do that. You're rotating right hand down and under.
And this is your ukemi. And you're going to come into my knees. Now, as uke, I'm standing here with my knees bent. And if you hit my knees hard, I'm going to fall back and I'm not going to break a knee. Try not to hit them hard. I don't want the bruises.
In fact,
But
don't
I'm
hit him at
comfortable
all,
with
just
it.
land at his feet. But normally you wouldn't land on his insteps.
And I'll let you roll on me and I will take a fall each time. Everybody please line up.
Let me have you do that one more time
Okay.
without too much explanation. Just the motion. I don't care about the pennies.
So for the safety, when you come at uke, who's standing about 3 meters away, about 10 feet, 10 to 12 feet,
Perfect.
your first one is a huge jump over here, 45-degree angle, because he's going to overcompensate, because the bicep of his right hand is stronger. Statistically, he's going to overcompensate. The next one is your ukemi. It's a big step and a turn to land at my feet. You're going to roll in. Oh, kick the gun if you can. Kick the arm, not the gun. Excuse me. Kick the arm.
Usually be held like that.
Bam! And you kick it hard as part of your fall. And then you roll into the legs and take it down. Right? Okay. Let's begin. We've got communities. The dojo that we studied in was mostly made up of Marine Corps personnel and cops. We were some of the civilians in it at that time. It was a majority of professional law enforcement and military personnel. And we were just lucky that we actually had to be invited into the class before it went public. And so we were learning this stuff, and we were able to pass it on. It's been taught in that class since then, and that class is out of the YMCA now. And it is a public and civilian class. But this is also a public and civilian class. And you guys are civilians, and it's very unusual to have a technique taught from that program in a civilian class. So keep those notes, and that's actually a very valuable technique that you can pass on.
And let me make one more, reiterate one more time.
I'm running short on time.
That this is a last resort. This is a
last
last ditch. If you have any other avenue of escape, you use it. This is only if you have no other.
The first 4 rules of handgun safety are run like hell, run like hell. Can you guess what the third and fourth are?
Those are the first 4.
I want to talk now briefly, and camera will be on for this, about latency. And latency is why a lot of things happen that probably wouldn't happen if someone had enough reflexive training to be able, and knows, practicing things frequently. I'm sure everyone has seen a bumper sticker that says no one was ever raped. 38 was never raped, or something like that.
Yeah, 38 was never raped.
Yeah. No one ever raped a 38. Statistically, and again, this is a law enforcement statistic, and I'll read, and I've got some of them in the handout for you. Statistically, more than 80% of the cases, when a woman has a handgun in her hand, it is used against her, against the assailant. And there's some reasons for that.
Which
80% of the time with a woman with a handgun in her hand, the handgun is used against her.
by the assailant.
By the assailant. And I'll talk a little bit about some final statistics at the end, which we can use to inform our instruction. But I want to talk about, is a 38 useful? Actually, I think it's net negative because it gives unnecessary and unreasonable confidence. What about a taser? Tasers are expensive. Let me read this from Bruce Jones, and as I do that, I'm going to give his gift to George, which is the DVD right here. George,
Oh, thank
that's from Bruce.
you. I'll leave it at that.
In that,
Lost your secret notes.
okay, and yeah, in that DVD, there's actually an example of latency where a woman, knowing that a guy is going to come out as she's going to her car and charge her, draws up the taser and still hesitates. And he actually has to run up, stop, scream and yell at the terrible things he's going to do to her, and then she blasts and he goes down running. What I want to make is this. Bruce works as a contract, and I want to read this to make sure I get it right. As a contract embassy protection agent, being on call 12 hours and off 12 hours, not counting the commute, means a 3-on-1 attack in the 11th hour is a very bad thing, even for someone like Bruce. He chose instead to talk with and train the nanny, the driver, the gardener, the staffer. He deputized them and explained what that meant in the Old West, and they just loved that. He gave them some introductory training on how to use a taser, and he told me, Jeff, gentle people who would hesitate to defend themselves or those around them with a gun will blast a perp in a nanosecond if they have a taser. Now, the taser's name in Japanese, that actually has a name. It's Taisadenki Kobujutsu, which is jump out electricity. And for those of you like Michael who are interested in exotic weapons, there's actually a taser that is a 12-gauge shotgun round that will reach out and touch someone hard at about 50 meters. It has 4 fangs on it, and it spins, and it'll penetrate cloth and unload about a half a microfarad of about 10 microfarads of charge into the perp. However, tasers are expensive. Bruce prefers a taser in his left hand and a baton in his right hand in a confrontation situation.
Jeff, what's the difference between a taser and just the electric shock sticks?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Stun gun is electric, or a kubotan. The downside of those is that the perp already has his hands on you. What about pepper spray? Well, in that case, you probably, even if you're experienced and you practice with it, you're probably both going to become victims, but it probably won't be a rape. How about breaking, Yubi-nagi rapidly and frequently?
I'm going to tag off of what they were teaching right at the beginning of the last session about the rolling. Because when someone grabs you, I'm going to teach momentum today. And this has something to do with momentum because I'm going to show you using momentum. So I'll use Byron because he knows this one. So if I'm good for a girl, if she's being dragged off, okay, and somebody's got you up here, and they're trying to drag you up. Before you do it, hang on. So when he's doing this, all of his effort is up here, so you can really relax. And what you want to do is simply reach across and grab a wrist and start spinning. So you're going to generate momentum in a circular way, and there's no way he can stay up because I'm just going to hold his wrist. Okay, so instead of grabbing the head like this,
You guys move
we're
back.
simply going to grab the hair. Let's do it over here, and I'll roll that way. Okay, so he starts dragging me off, and I'll grab, and just start turning. And that's all you have to do. Just grab the wrist and start turning. His shoulder locks up, and he has to go, or he'll just dislocate. Okay, so if that's not going to happen to guys. And 99% of the time, it just won't happen. But for girls, it could. They'll get you down, grab your arms, and start dragging you off wherever they're trying to take you. Don't go. Take them down. Okay, so now what we're going to talk about is momentum. There are basically 4 types of momentum defenses that you want to use. So you have a linear type attack or a circular type of attack. Basically, are the only 2 general ways they come at you. It either comes around or it comes straight at you. So if it comes linear, use a circular defense. If it comes in a circle, use a linear defense. And you want to always end up in the center of the circle. because energy flows away from the circle. Okay, so you have, if someone is attacking you directly, you have a choice of not being there and just let the momentum continue past you. The second choice is to deflect the momentum slightly so you redirect it. The third way is to take their momentum and add your momentum to it and move them in any direction you want. And then the fourth way, which is the last one and the last choice to use in most cases, is to directly confront it, where you stop it cold, where momentum hits momentum, where you block the momentum. That is the hardest way of doing it, but in some cases, depending on the situation, it might be the most effective. So what we're going to do is we're just going to practice linear and circular situations and practice the four elements of moving, let the force pass you, blend in with it, redirecting it, and then stopping it cold. Okay? So let me borrow Byron since we work out a lot. Okay, so the first one we'll work at, and many of you understand this. It may not have been explained to you, and you've done it naturally, and now it might make more sense to you. If he's going to take a stepping punch and just come flying straight into me, he has a lot of momentum coming in a linear motion, and he can't stop very easily. Okay, so we'll use that same scenario because he just got his green belt in karate, and he's itching for a fight. He's got 6 months under his belt, and he just wants to test it and see if it works. Okay, so he's going to come with full force. So now if I just stand right here and I try to stop that force, it's going to hurt. Okay, but let me show you what happens. So it's, remember, linear attack, circular defense. Go ahead. You just step out of the way, the force just goes by. Commit to the punch, full power. Okay? Just step out of the way, let the force go by. Okay? That's a practice that you guys need to do, just to learn, just to get the feeling, especially students. Okay. Now, the next one is to redirect the force. So he's coming straight at my face. Now, some of you have been in the seminars before. You know that I teach this it's angles. It's coming in here. If I just touch it at 20 degrees, it's going to redirect it and miss my head. So the whole purpose here is he's coming straight at me. And all I did was I just touched it and moved out of the way. I could even stand right here and touch it and just push a little and it misses my face. You don't need to do that because it's a waste of energy. All you have to do is touch it just enough and it will pass. It'll push 2 inches here, it moves it 6 inches here, and it's going to go past. So if he's got a lot of energy coming, just redirect it a little bit. If you don't feel comfortable stepping out of the way, you can just put your hand in at an angle to the force. You look at your line of attack and simply address it with a 20-degree angle, and it will pass you by with ease. Very little effort. All the effort's on his part. So that's redirection. Okay, blending is he's going to come at me like that, and I'd say, well, I need to do something aggressively because he's got 3 other friends, and I want to make sure they understand that I'm not going to roll over. Go ahead. So all I did was I let his momentum. Do I need to move back?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to allow his momentum to pass, and then I add my force to it and continue his momentum in the same direction. Okay? So that all I did there was I just added a little bit of force to his, and he threw himself because of his momentum moving. Okay, now, the fourth one is dead stop, where you're in a position where I have a wall right behind me and I can't go anywhere. So what I need to do is stop the momentum blindly. So if it's coming straight into me, what I want to do is I want to get to him before he gets to me. So in this case, all I did was I took a step. Now, if you watch his body, he's stepping with his foot, so his chest is rotating. Go ahead, just take this step slowly. See how his chest rotates? So that means I could get to that chest part before he gets to me by just stepping straight into the center of the circle. Okay? Now I'm doing it this way so it doesn't hurt anybody. I could just as easily hit him in the mouth. I could get to his mouth before he can get to mine. This hand comes up and deflects gently. Watch what happens. We'll do it slow motion first. So this comes up and notice it deflects as this comes up and strikes. So that way, I'm using all of his momentum against him. I'm there pushing off and I've got the power as I deflect the force. Okay? So we'll do it one more time. So this just comes up and I come straight out through his chest. Now notice as he's turning, you have to hit him right there when he's off balance. And it will stop him cold because he has no balance at that moment in time when you hit him. Okay? Okay, so we got plenty of time. So there's other variations to this, but let's work on this. Do it as slow as you need to, but as fast as possible. Because you have to actually learn. In a real street fight, they're going to move quick. They're not going to move like in a dojo. So you have to be able to move out of the way of the force. So we'll work on a linear attack first. Okay, round attacks are easier to defend. Okay, so pick a partner. And what I want you to do, the attacking partner is just going to take a fast stepping punch, again, under control, and I want you to step out of the way. Learn to just move out of the way. Okay, so on that one, the attack was a right-handed attack, and then of course a lot of you changed and went left-handed, which is fine. That's good. So all I want you to do now is the attacker is going to do the same attack, but this time we're going to redirect the force. So there are two ways to do that. I demonstrated one way where we simply block at an angle and it deflects the force past your head. Remember, now karate teaches the cross block or one of these type of blocks. If you do that, it tends to turn your shoulder a little bit. If you just do it with the hand, it doesn't have as much force as if you rotate your hip with it. Okay, but what happens is sometimes beginning karate students will tend to over block and it puts you in a bad position. So what I want you to do is learn to strike at an angle into the force. So if the punch is coming in at 20 degrees, you hit it at the same force, a mirror image. Everything is mirror image. It's all physics. It's just going to deflect the force away. Okay, so that's one. If you want to go to the inside, then when that punch comes by. So we'll demonstrate the first one first, slow motion. So it's coming straight at my face, and all I want to do is block, and my target, let's turn this way. My target is right here in front of the elbow, right at that nerve right there. I'm not actually blocking with my finger. Here in class I am, but if this was a real street fight, I'm going to hit him with that bony part of my arm. I'm going to strike the arm in a palm strike right there on that forearm. So as it comes out, coming straight at me, and I strike it like this. So I'm striking as if I'm going into his face. But I don't extend through because all I want to do is make sure this moves that far. There's no reason to do that unless I'm going into a technique. So the whole purpose of this is simply say, just to deflect it, and then he redirects the force. So now you can do this if you want. Deflect and turn, so you're behind it. Okay, because there's things we're going to do to follow up. But just learn that. Now, the other one is the inside pivot. So he comes in, but instead of going to the outside like this, I decide to go this way. Okay, same thing. Okay, the only thing, this is just me personally, as I get older, I want to do less and less work. Because if I do this one, now I got to deal with his left hand. Okay, which can be dealt with this way by just coming in, allowing his momentum to continue to flow, and I strike. So he just drives right into my elbow. But I still have to worry about the left hand. Okay, it might be superficial damage, and I don't necessarily want that, but that's another thing here, and the elbow comes up. And he just the momentum just carries right into the elbow. Okay, so do that gently, don't actually take your partner's head off. Okay, now, but here's the move that we were just doing, remember? We just stepped out of the way. It's the same footwork. All I do is I bring my right hand up and deflect and shift. And he just comes right, it just sets up right into it, okay?
Is it still a strike, the same sort of a strike on the inside?
It is, but it's more of a, this comes up, deflecting, and parallel, okay? I mean, to do it slow motion until you get the speed. But the whole purpose is this one is the same thing, just come right into it, like this, and then my left hand is already ready for the reverse punch underneath if we need to. Okay, so practice it both directions, but the key is try not to overblock. Try to just deflect the force so it doesn't hit you and you're not wasting energy. Okay? For the younger ones, if you get my age, you'll understand that. Less effort you use, the easier it is. Okay? All right, so let's just work on that one now. From outside pivot. This is just a point of reference. When that punch is coming out here, like this, don't grab it and then try to elbow. The moment you grab something, the other person knows what you're doing. So I saw a couple of you grabbing. So what I want you to do is deflect as you step and then just slide, just roll up as his momentum continues. Because I didn't stop his momentum, I simply deflected it. And he just comes right into it. So that's a real key. If you grab, if I do this, the moment he feels that, he's going to pull back or do something else, then you've defeated the whole purpose. So the key of what we're teaching is momentum. Try to use it against him. So if he's going to come at me, I'm going to just let him use all that momentum and let me use it. So all I do is deflect it and let him slide into my elbow. Then I can do something else. The other thing I want to point out is when you strike here and you pivot and you're out of the way, don't forget this leg. Don't leave it back there. Pivot back here because you want to be behind it. So now all of a sudden he realizes I'm not there, and as he comes to turn around, boom, he's not going to turn around. Okay? I'm not going to let him turn around. But I wasn't there, and then all of a sudden he's down on the ground, his head facing away from me. Okay, because you look what happened to his leg. His leg was perfect target. I just take it. Take the opportunity. Okay, so now we're just going to, now that we've got the two basics down, this guy is just like, I'm going to just take your head off like this, okay? He's going to come at you like that. That's, I mean, if you watch YouTube, you see that a lot. I just look and go, how do these people come up with these attacks? It's like, tell me what you're going to do and then do it, you know? So when he gets all flustered and he's just about to do it, we'll do straight in. Roundhouses are too easy. Okay, so he's just coming with all that force. Here's what we're going to do. This one's going to clothesline him. This one's going to deflect. Okay? So we just come in. Front punch. Otherwise I'll do something. So I just take that step. This clotheslines, now that's why you need this left leg to come back around, because this comes like this. It pulls him right off his balance.
I may have you
That's why
switch,
you bring the leg around.
switch sides.
Switch sides. Okay. So he comes in, I block, I stepped in and I clothesline him, and then I have to be there. This comes here and here, and he's where I want him. He did all the work for me, all I did was pivot. Okay, now, here's the key. There are two ways to do this, and I did it backwards actually, so I'll do it over for the camera, slow motion. Block and clothesline. See this here, palm down? If you palm up it, you have the use of your bicep, it makes it easier. So when you hook here, you have a much greater pull, and you can bring them down and come right in. This is stronger, this is okay, but stronger. Okay? So, that's why I wanted you to step in and pivot, and I wanted you to stay close. I don't want you to pivot away like this. You want to be in close enough where you can do damage I'm right next to him, I hook him, and I pivot and pull, or pull. Okay? So let's practice that. You need to see it or you got it?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is add force to your opponent. So if your opponent pulls, you push. If they're coming at you, just add force to it and it overwhelms the opponent because he can't maintain balance when he is trying to, when you add your force to it. So we'll start out with a simple one. Thomas, I'll borrow you for a minute. Thomas looks mean right now. So we'll start out with just an aggressive, this is an aggressive type of a bar scene where the guy grabs and pulls like this, okay? Okay, so now he's pulling and pushing. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, okay, let him do all the work, and I'm gonna take advantage of his weak spot. Okay, so as he pulls in, his elbows are bent, okay? And so that means that there's strength this way because of his bicep, but there's no strength this way. So if I push that way and just redirect the force, this is another redirection, I can then redirect his momentum and just stop the whole attack pretty quickly. Okay? Now I can either push from the side or reach underneath when he's not seeing and pull it. And all I did was I pull across. For those of you who can't see, it's this motion. This, when he's straight arm, doesn't work very well. But if he bends his elbow, now I can just push right there and he loses all of his control. Okay? Just by pushing in. So I'm redirecting the force. As he pulls, I push. See what happened? He lost his balance. And then I can simply pull him down, or anything, especially if he's had 2 beers. 2 or more beers and it works really well. Okay? So what I want you to do is either come across, don't pull to you, pull it exactly 90 degrees to the elbow. So the stronger the guy is, the easier it is to do. Okay? So as he pulls in, I simply pull it and it throws him completely off balance, and then you can push on the neck nerve or whatever you want, hold him against your chest, and then when you get tired of holding him up, step out of the way, and he falls over. Okay, so all you have to do is pull across. So what I want you to do is straight arm attack him, do that. I want you to pull in. The more you get this strong, tough guy, the easier it is to move the elbow. Okay? So grab a partner about your size and practice this. Just pushing with your fingers. You only need a couple fingers and it will turn him off his feet. Or come across with the opposite hand and drop the shoulder. And you'll see what happens. His head just comes down and you just pull him down. Okay? Okay. Michael brought up a point that needs to be addressed. Okay? And Byron, what was your name?
Andy.
Byron and Andy were working on a similar version of it. And so I'm going to have Byron demonstrate one part of it, and I want to demonstrate Michael's part of it. So, but I'm going to use Andy while I'm doing it. Okay, so this guy's a really tough guy. He pulls me in, but he blocks his arms and won't let me get to him, okay? And I can't do anything with him, okay? So, go ahead. So here's what I'm going to do. Because I don't want to, he's got his hands tied up, I got my hands free. We need to move back to the down. This is 4 ears. Right here? Okay? So I can ring his doorbell and pop his ears at the same time. All at once. So I just, bam! Like that. Okay? And I don't like to do it just once. Krav Maga teaches 3 times at least. Not once, not twice, but at least 3 times. And if that doesn't get it, you keep going until it does. But they don't tell you hit them 1 time. You have to hit them 3 times. In real life, you hit them until they stop. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to get mad. I'm going to just start pounding and kicking like this. And I'm going to drive. I'm pushing off my leg. Of course, I'm not trying to hit him. But I would drive him literally off his feet as I smash him. And look at my thumbs. I could just take his eyes out if I want to. Okay, if I really want to damage him. But that's one of the things that you have to do. If you get some real tough guy who doesn't want to just easily go down like a drunk will, You have to be more aggressive. So I'm gonna let Byron demonstrate the next aggressive move with Andy.
All right, so I'm going to use my shorter stature here versus this big guy to my advantage. One of the things is, yeah, as he pulls me in, either his elbows are going to be here, they may be a little bit back towards his side, so I'm not going to be able to get this cross thing. He might not be wearing a jacket, right? So I'm actually not going to rely on a push or a grab or something like that. I'm just going to take my hand, I'll do it this way, I guess, so you can see. I'm just going to lay it over his elbow right here, right? So even as he's out here and he grabs me, I just keep it right here, right? So at this point, I'm just going to sink, create the space, pull into this void I created, right? So, yeah, whatever you want to do from here, but that, just laying that in there, pulls you in, create the void, step down, and if he's wearing a t-shirt or something, I don't care. I'm not trying to grab fabric. I'm just using my body weight, right? So you don't need a handle for that. Right?
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so now we have to go to, let's see, we did the misdirections and we did stepping out of the way. So let's go to some circular defenses. And we'll use block, we'll go to the last part of the defense as opposed to being gentle, we'll be a little bit aggressive, okay? For the purpose of ending the fight quickly. Okay, now, there's a Chinese gentleman named Jimmy Wu who brought Sansu Kung Fu to the United States. He had a famous saying was, if you fought for 10 seconds, it was 7 seconds too long. Okay, because he believed in finishing fights immediately. He said, don't fight. If you have to, finish it right away. Don't fight. Just finish it and be done with it. So on that motion, Andy, I'll borrow you again. So this time, this guy is not a boxer. He's not going to throw the stepping straight punch. He's just coming with this punch, a big round punch, okay? So round punching or round kicks, you have to use a linear type defense. You step into the center of the circle and leave the force outside, okay? So the way I do it,
Let me have you guys center again.
yeah, you want to center right here. So you're going to go back right there. You're going to take a big stepping roundhouse punch. Okay, my target's right here, assuming I'm never going to move. Okay? So that's what you don't want. You don't want to stay there and wait for it, because it's going to hurt. You may not get up from it. Okay. However, if I step to the center of the circle, I should be able to just stop it. So now, the first thing we want to watch is his balance. As he's taking that step, his balance is moving from the center of the chest, this way, being off balance, to here where it's a weak spot. So as he takes that step and becomes fully planted to hit me, go ahead. Right here, see his chest is here, so if I push right there, he's off balance. So what we want to do is beat him to the punch. Just as he thinks he's about to hit me, I want to hit him in the mouth at an angle of 45 degrees, going that way. So I'm going to take all of his momentum and redirect it right into his jaw. Okay? And I'm not going to get hit doing it. Okay? So here's how you do it. So I'm here and I see that coming. In Aikido, they use a splitting deflection type block, and that's all I use here. Is I'm going to set that just in case I make a mistake. I want to be rotating my hips, so I'm still going to at least deflect it, even if I make a mistake. Okay, so here's how we do it. We'll do a slow motion. Okay, so as he comes in, I step in, boom, and block and hit like this. We'll turn this way so the camera can see it. So I'm going to step and mirror image his chest. Boom. Okay? So I hit here. Remember, always hit with those two knuckles. Don't hit with the outside knuckles because you break your hand. It's amazing how many boxers break their hand because they turn their hand and hit with the soft, and the force goes across the hand. Straight in with those two knuckles. Block and punch at the same time. Why? Don't do 1-2. I remember when I was a kid, I was learning block, punch, and then I realized, well, that doesn't work because the other guy's doing the same thing. So you need to be one step ahead of them And when he's punching, I need to be punching at the same time and blocking at the same time. He's not thinking about blocking, he's focused solely on defending. Okay, so we use the force, and we're gonna use all this force against him. So as he's stepping at me, I simply step right into him and hit him. At his weak spot, which is gonna send him off his feet. We can't hit full power into the face in the class, because half the class won't get back up.
Don't have dental insurance.
So simulate the strike to the face, okay? You can also practice like I did with Byron. You can hit him right in the chest if you want, palm open, so it doesn't hurt too much. It hurts a little, but not too much. So you can practice that. So if you want to practice it, do it this way. Just like that, if you want. Okay, but otherwise your real target's right under the jaw. Now for me, because I'm short, it makes it easier for against tall guys. Because I'm coming up underneath and they're just gonna get going that way. You know, if I was hitting some small person, it would be much different. So, okay, so that's an advantage Denny and I have. We can strike upward.
And you can still use the palm strike to the
Yeah.
as well.
Of course.
You don't want to risk hurting.
Yeah, exactly. Right, if you don't want to hurt, you can use palm under or whatever. But, all right, so let's focus on this. And again, pick up the speed. We were doing it relatively fast on stepping out. Now you're just going to step in and rotate. What I want you to practice on here is learning to mirror image his movement and be there before him, because you're going to get there a split second before him. He's out here and you're going to be in the center of the circle. You're going to get him before anything happens. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so practice that left-handed and then right-handed, because there are lefties out there. Okay? Okay. Understand what we're doing here is, I don't know if you know this, but the Chinese used to study, the way they studied their Kung Fu in different styles, is they would literally take peasants and beat them to death just to see what their body did.
Oh.
That's how they learned what things did, okay? So we're going to take that science to practical application here, is when he's taking that roundhouse stepping punch, okay, this elbow is right at the target where you want to hit, okay? So what you want to do is actually slide in with a knife block, 90 degrees. I'm not blocking with my arm, I'm moving my body through the block, okay? So watch what, I'm just going to block and watch what happens to Tony. Okay? Sorry. Okay? So that's what you want. Now, at the same moment I hit his elbow, I also hit him in the mouth. Okay, that's what we're trying to train here, is you have to get your timing right. And Mark brought up a point about, well, aren't you kind of circular also? Yes and no, because I'm taking a straight step and rotating my hip. So the circular motion's in the hip. I want to be in the center of the circle, because that prevents me from getting hit. Okay, it also puts me in a solid foundation, so when I hit him, all of my energy is going into him and all of his momentum is added to my force. Okay? So that was the whole purpose of that exercise, is you're not doing this, you're not blocking with the arm, because that doesn't work. In real life, it just doesn't work. You have to have your body behind the block or the punch for it to have the 3-second effect, okay, which is what Jimmy Ruth's point was, is don't fight past 3 seconds, okay? So we don't have to do it again, Albert.
Thank you, sir.
No fight. Okay, so now let's apply it to, how many are up to some judo throws with momentum? Okay, good.
He tried to hide, but this ain't work.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is the famous, what is this one called? This one? I always forget the Japanese name for it. It's the chop the arm one.
So nice, sleep throw, or arm pull throw?
I forget.
Japanese is chop the arm thing.
Yeah.
That's it. Exactly. So let me explain how it works in slow motion first, and then we'll add the momentum and you'll see how it works. And it really is not chopping the arm. What we're doing is we're actually trying to add force to the already existing momentum. Okay? So as he comes in, either this can be done for a fast grab, it'll work the same way. Okay? Doesn't really matter. But as it comes in, I deflect the force and come from behind so it comes this way to add force that way. I'm not chopping straight in. I'm actually driving him to go that way. So my rotation comes this way. As I rotate my hip, this strikes and starts to pull him that way as I rotate, and then he will start to fall over. Okay? So I see a lot of people doing it wrong, many beginners, because they chop straight down, and that's not the purpose of it. It works, but it works crudely, because what it does is it drops his shoulder into the ground, as opposed to adding force to the momentum. Okay? So what I want you to do is to try to do it, and let's just do it in 2 rows. 1 row there, 1 row there, so you can just throw this way. Okay, so we don't have people banging into each other. So all you're going to do is the attacker is going to throw the punch. I want you to bring this arm up, rotate your hip. As soon as you make contact, you'll slide down and slide with a C grip till you capture the arm. As you start your hip rotation, come in from behind and slice into the arm, pulling it that way. I'm not trying to pull it down. I'm simply pulling it that way, and his momentum will carry him right around. Now, for my footwork, my footwork was this motion. I've turned 180 degrees, so if I'm facing that way, I'm facing that way at the end. Okay, if you do it correctly, you'll be facing the wall. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so try it right-handed first, and if you get brazen, do it left-handed. For a left-handed attacker. Okay? 2 rows right here. So there's a Nuki here and a Tori over there. Okay, another thing that I see a lot of beginners won't do is they're afraid to hurt somebody. We're talking about in the street situation. There is nothing wrong with pulling him up on the side like this, shifting your weight into his back so he's on his side, and taking your foot right on the neck. Sorry, I don't want to push too hard. Balance it and shift your weight to the left side, which I'm not going to do. If I shift my weight to the left side, it's going to make him very difficult for him to get back up, or at least continue with the fight. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with just coming and stepping right on the neck, and then shift your weight accordingly. Okay? Especially when you're wearing shoes. It'll hurt like the devil. Okay? Sorry, I have dirty feet. Okay, you wanted to take a group picture?
Yeah, we're taking a group picture. Let me just interject one thing, let me borrow from again, because I learned this 30 years ago. A gentleman I still know, named Louis Mercier, he's over in France, Taijutsu person, and he has a publishing company. He is independently wealthy, and he does a lot of techniques. The same thing here, but rather than putting your foot in, what he does is says, you do not want to mess up your clothes when you're defending yourself. So rather than just putting the foot in there, they will actually take the outside. This works better if you have leather shoes. Okay? He would take the outside edge under the jawbone, and that's where the weight is applied.
Right.
Okay, there's got all these nerves here. You get that leather sole, which is a thin strip, and that becomes a tremendously painful experience really fast. That is cool. But who in the U.S. wears leather shoes? Unless you're downtown LA.
Outside of specialty shops. Blessing.
Okay, have a seat. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, there's a publication out there called The Big Book of Budoshin Jujitsu. It's about 800 and some odd techniques. And make a long story real short, these are essentially my notes, okay, and obviously I did make mistakes in writing stuff down. Common mistakes are like left instead of right, And some of these, there are omissions in terms of what you actually have to do, because for me it was, oh, that's a given, why should I write that down? And I never wrote these down with the intention of giving them to anyone else, but things change. So what we're trying to do is, bless you, we're trying to go through some of these, some of the black belts indicate this, technique does not make sense. Can you demonstrate it in class so we can see what it is? And so that's what we're doing. And I strongly encourage you, regardless of whatever martial art you are teaching, take notes of what your instructor is teaching. Your notes need to make sense only to you, and they are better than any video you can buy, any books you can buy, including my stuff. I'll tell that to, I get emails, what's the best learning situation in a dojo, okay? You take notes, keep them for yourself, and then when you become an instructor, you are going to have a tremendous depth of knowledge that you can work from. Do I know all these 800 and some odd techniques? There's no chance in hell. Sorry. It's just, you can't remember that many, okay? But you have if you're going to teach, part of my philosophy is you need to be able to teach everything that your instructor taught you, whether or not you can do it well, and more importantly, whether or not you like it, and whether or not you feel it's valid, okay? Because you always leave it up to the student to make those decisions, because there are some techniques that I can't do well physically, and I have had students that they think this is the neatest thing since sliced toast. And I look like garbage doing it, and they've done it 5 times, and they are doing it so nicely, it's criminal. So that's why you develop this resource for yourself as a student, okay? Okay, so we're at
286, page 9.
286, page 9.
No, I'm sorry, 277.
Page 277. The 277?
Top of page 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Tenagi, hand throw, 277. Lapel. God, this is boring. Everything's for us off graph. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you. Who wants to be bouquet? Okay, Denny. Okay. It's like
Science of throwing.
It's like kiwi. Okay. It's a brother of Wi-Fi. Anyway. Okay.
Let me center you again.
Okay, we're centered. Okay, who wants to read this technique to me? Right? Denny,
I'll read it.
Okay.
Your right foot should be forward. Grab his right hand with your right hand, fingers up and thumb out to the right.
Okay.
What is that? Can I see?
I'm going to turn around in a minute.
Okay.
Turn to your left towards his right arm, and then to your right, pulling his hand away as you turn to your right. Turn back in towards your left, assuming that's what the T is for. Pull his arm in a large counterclockwise arc away from you.
Oh,
Execute the throw as you finish your foot back.
This is so simple, it's pathetic. I mean, okay.
It seems like a lot of...
Yeah, the foreplay description was.
Let me get. Let me get Danny on that side.
It was kind of like.
So
Yeah.
is this the getting him to resist? So
This is getting him to resist, yes.
Okay. You want me to resist?
No, I don't want you to resist. I'll do something else. Okay, he's going to grab. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to my, I'm going to go to my right foot forward. Okay, I'm going to go to my left, come around to here, come back to here, with the hand up for a hand throw, pivot around, down your hand throw. Submission, good kick into the shoulder blade, makes a loud thud, will not hurt them. Okay, come around inside the elbow to your take the elbow out, break the wrist. Okay? If you don't want to do that as a submission, drop down onto your right knee. Okay? Okay, we'll turn you around, Danny. Thank you. He comes equipped with a little lazy Susan down there. Okay, down here, put all your weight on your right knee, push down on the wrist. You snap the wrist. Now, more importantly with this, there's a nerve under here, okay? You drop down on this, the odds of you breaking his arm are really pretty slim, but it's gonna bruise that nerve enough where he will not want to use that arm for a couple, 3 days. It's a pain factor that you're after, okay? Nothing works as well as pain. So, you know, in here, just put your knee down and then shift your weight until the person taps, okay? Then there's Denny. He's too old to have nerves. No. Okay, but you need to do that, make that shift if you're going to control the person so that you have a feel for how much pressure you need to apply, or how much weight shift you need to apply. Okay? So basically all you're doing is a basic hand throw, starting the right foot forward, you're messing with him to loosen him up, do the hand throw, and then do the submission. Okay? We're going to have you do this about 3-4 times a piece, because you all should know the technique, but I want to see that you're doing the submission. Okay? Turn around. I used to do hand throws with this, because this is the way Seki originally taught it. Nice big arch, okay? And today, since I've improved my kind of technical knowledge, okay, this is set up, I turn, and I turn my body, and you get the same thing with a lot less work. So in the directions where it says make a big counterclockwise circle, there really should be a clockwise circle as you turn your body, pivoting your leg back. Okay, because this is a lot less work. And as Mark said, as we get older, we want to do less. And also, my students know that Jiu-Jitsu is the lazy person's martial art. Okay, we want to do the least we have. Submission, cross arm lock pin.
What number?
278, cross arm lock pin. Juji Ude Shimiwaza, submission attackers on his stomach. Okay. Gotta roll over it. No, on your stomach. Okay, face the other way. Okay. Now bark. I'm going to pull you back a little bit because we really don't need to worry about your feet. If we can take them off, that would be even better. Oh, that felt good. Okay. Okay, he's down. Okay. By the way, if you get someone like this and their arms are up in this position and you want to get them behind them, do not try and grab from the outside. It's an incredible waste of time, energy, and effort. He is in a stronger position. Okay. What you want to do is, if you want to get that arm back there, you need to come from underneath. Pull. It's real simple. Okay. Because it goes back to this circular type movement. The brain can't function that fast. Okay. We're going to take this one and take this back here too. This is not the technique. I just wanted his sleeve. That's all I'm after. Okay. Okay. So we've got this person. Relax.
Okay, bless your lips.
This is where we're starting from. Okay.
Wow.
And if Uke isn't there, you need to get up to this position. Okay. At this point,
Your right foot comes over to his left shoulder.
left shoulder. Oh, we can do this on the right side. I can do this one probably.
Okay. As you go down to his right side on your back, rolling him over onto his back, your right leg slips under his shoulder and locks onto your left foot, which is slipped under his left arm.
Competitors, status
You have to sit down for that back, sit down a little back.
As you go down to your right,
Okay.
Antonio! It's the fear. Rolling him over onto his back,
Okay,
your right leg slips under his shoulder and locks onto your left foot. which is slipped under his left arm.
Oh,
Your left,
oh,
your left foot is
okay, now I know what's going on.
Okay.
This is why no one is gonna get away doing this against either Jared or this won't work on really well good guys. Okay, don't worry about your dog. That's not gonna go anywhere.
We'll fix it for you.
Okay, we're here. Okay, you've got this puppy. Okay, you're going to step over, okay? And you have to let this go at some point, okay? As I'm gonna bring this back here. Okay, ideally what I want to do, sorry, that's okay. I'm trying not to put any weight on you. Okay, go back, get over, and get this, if your legs are long enough. Where's,
Now, it's your left foot is under his shoulder.
my left foot's on your shoulder?
I think so. It says locks onto your left foot, which is slipped under his left shoulder.
Well,
Sounds
I
like
can't,
enough right area.
this is your left shoulder, right? Correct.
Looks like you step over and do like a finger.
Yeah.
And you wonder why we have questions.
Step over with the,
Yes.
step over with the left. Okay, then you come bring it up to the figure 4, then drop
Tell
down.
my children, my
Does
wife.
that make more sense? Yeah, and then
We're
we're
gonna
gonna go
do
back
this.
that way, and you probably have a break on the shoulder.
Yeah, you can come.
You okay?
So you already got a bar.
Yeah, I know, but the problem is, I've got to get this foot under his left, under
Under
his
his left arm.
Okay.
Oh, that actually does look like it fits with the description now.
Yeah.
Let go of his right arm
There we
and
go.
go down.
Left, on the left side.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, now we know what we're doing.
That will do it for real.
Okay, otro vez. He's down. Step over. You're gonna come down. Now you can sit on. I'm not sitting on you yet.
you're perfect, you're perfect. Don't worry.
He suffers so well.
I will say my food.
I thought you said madre.
Madre fili, Madre mate, okay. Okay, you're gonna be here. Now, if you want, you can sit towards his right side, or you can balance yourself off it. Depends on how nice you want to be to Uke. Okay? We're gonna have to come back over. Sorry about that. Oh, that was a nice click to his wrist. Okay, and there we are. Now, if I can get this under here, I'm in better shape. Okay?
So now it says use a hand or arm nerve submit technique on his left hand, wrist, or arm for final submission.
In Jiu-Jitsu, what's the assumption?
That's,
Not everything works.
Not everything works.
Better have two.
His
Okay.
nose goes for his nose.
Nerve. Okay. Or you take your heel and hit him in the sternum a couple times. Okay. If it's more comfortable for you to be on this side, fine. A lot of it depends on how his elbow ends up bending. It may work better on the left side. Okay, this is an individual thing. Also has to do, I'm resting basically on my right cheek. Okay? If you end up being flat, it may work better on the left side. Okay? So it's your choice. Your cheek can make the decision. Okay.
So the main mistake here is,
Yeah, it's a figure 4, not on a song. Okay. Are you okay?
yes,
Good, good, good. Okay, we're gonna have you try this. It's not hard once you know what you're doing. Okay, so get your uke. Okay, good, thank you very much. Mark Jordan has done an arduous study of the terminology Seki used, and he probably has a different name for this. When I did, and there are, if you ever start learning 2 different styles of Jiu-Jitsu, and you start having different names for the same technique, and then you go to 3 styles. I had a student early on in my jiu-jitsu teaching career who actually took about 6 or 8 different styles of jiu-jitsu and cross-referenced all the techniques with the Budoshin and the English. He got it all done. It was this huge, massive printout. Where is it? He disappeared. This guy literally disappeared.
Wow.
I've got a copy.
You probably redone it to some extent. This thing was, you know, it was phenomenal. Now, the problem, yes,
If you can give me his name, and he's anywhere alive in the world, I
I
can
don't know his name anymore.
I can find it.
I don't know his name anymore.
It's not 10
All I want to say is different systems have different names, in Japanese and in English, so English doesn't solve any problems, okay? And when I redid my first book, I just made a decision that I was just going to put Seki's terminology in there, regardless of who might disagree with it or say this is not the proper, because that's what he used. I didn't have the guts to do that when the first book came out because I didn't have the guts to do it. This time I figured, what the heck, you know, I'm doing this for historical reasons, and that's why it's there that way. So if you want to call techniques something different, I'm not going to fight that battle. It's your right to do so, okay? And because ultimately, when push comes to shove, no one cares what the name of the technique is anyway, okay? It's ultimately, is it effective, does it work, is it simple enough for other people to do, okay? And when you start teaching, okay, when you get to that point where your technique is so complicated. This was not a complicated technique. I just couldn't figure out what I had written down. If you end up with a technique that's so complicated that it's difficult for you to do it, you really need to look at that technique to see if it's valid at all, because if you can't do it, the chances of your students being able to do it is nil and none. The same thing will occur when you have students, and I found this, students, I said this yesterday, students around first, second brown belt up to first, second black belt will start putting stuff together. Or I've had students tell me, Sensei, I have a new technique. And I look at it and say, okay, you know, these two moves or what have you do work together. I said, okay, now the next test is teach it to the class. Okay, now, if they've got this different sequence of things or combination of techniques and they can do it well, and if they can teach it to the class and the class can do it, then maybe it's a valid technique. If no one in the class can do it, it's a valid technique for that person only, probably. Okay, so as you become an instructor, this is one of the things you have to allow. Okay, it's kind of like having teenagers. They're going to experiment. And you have to allow, within safe reason, you have to allow it to happen, because that's part of their growth, part of their developing their own self-confidence in their knowledge of the art, or growing up as a human being, however you want to look at it. And it's hard, for those of you who have been parents or are parents, you know it's really tough at times to just clench your teeth and say, we will all get through this. Okay, let's go to the next technique. This one is the forward reverse neck attack, Yaku Wazamai no Yusuminagi 279. Okay. And reverse, you're on the mat face up. Opponent on the position. Okay. This is, okay, I think I read through this one. I can do it. I need a uke. Who wants to be uke? Oh, you're good. Okay. Now, one of the things to realize, and this is why joint locks and chokeholds and strangles are so important. One of the things you have to realize is that most of the stuff you teach or you learn standing up can be done on the ground as well. And when students get over that hump, they're pretty good on the ground. Okay, I'm not saying perfect. None of this stuff is grappling stuff. They're pretty good on the ground. What you have to worry about is because you are working in much smaller circles and doing the techniques on the ground, you are more likely to injure your opponent because things get set up a lot faster. So you have to be very careful in setting up any chokes, strangles, arm bars, wrist locks, anything of that sort on the ground, because stuff will happen a lot faster if you're not careful. Okay, so I'm on the ground. He's between my legs, which is a stupid place to be. Is this kneeling down, I guess? Yeah, okay. And what else is he doing here?
Grab your lapels.
He's grabbing my lapels. Okay, this is a really cool technique. And what am I supposedly doing here?
Your left arm goes counterclockwise around his right arm, and your left hand grabs his left lapel.
Wow, that's not good. Okay, now I got it.
Your right hand grabs the right side of his gi at his shoulder.
Oh, okay. Okay, now I got it here. This is gonna come up. Push,
Yeah.
take him over. Ah! And what am I gonna do, arm bar? You have a good pulse.
Let's keep it that way.
You just set a choke. He says if you can't set a choke, set an arm bar by slipping around his body,
Okay.
your body around to the left.
Okay, I can set a choke either, well, I need to do a nerve press. He's got a good pulse here. Okay, I can, this is to me is a hold, this is a temporary, this is a temporary fix until I can get into something better. Okay, so I'm gonna go from here, around, and up into an arm bar, which I've already got set. Okay, and then if you want to be nicer about this, step over, get under his chin. Okay, now, this is a really good arm bar. And I haven't thrust my hips in yet, so be really careful. Okay, if I thrust my hips in, or I go back down, I will take his elbow out. There is no way to avoid it, because I am wrapped in so tight from being on the ground. Okay, so to do this again from the other angle. Nope, you're doing this again.
Do it to the same angle again.
Okay, here, he comes in, he grabs a lapel, stupid attack, okay, pow, just to distract him for a moment, okay, pow, come in here, and under grab, okay, grab with the right, my right leg is pushing his left leg, correct? Down, that off balances him. Roll him over. As I roll over, my thumb goes to the right side of his neck, behind the trachea. Push in. Okay, I could stop here if I wanted to. Okay, watch him thrash around for a little bit, maybe a few seconds. Okay, I'm going to come up, set this up, and I'm set with an arm bar. And this is tight. Okay, if I step over and then go back, his elbow's gone. Okay? And you have another hand free to take notes, get out your cell phone, take a picture of his face, say smile. Okay? So we're going to have to try this. 283. Arm one takedown or throw with kick. Okay. Budoshin Jujitsu lapel. Okay, someone just read this. Look at this lapel graph. Yeah. Okay. Now again, I apologize for all these neat lapel graphs, but that's the way Seki taught them. And most of you know that the attack becomes irrelevant. Let me borrow Byron for this one. Okay. It's a lapel grab. What am I doing here?
Your left hand grabs his right gi sleeve under his armpit, fingers up.
Okay.
Right hand grabs his right gi sleeve at the wrist from over the top.
Okay.
Your left arm straightens under his armpit and is against his elbow as you turn his arm clockwise.
Okay.
Pivot your right foot back or step in with your left foot.
Okay.
Right foot kicks his stomach to bring him down. Once he's down,
You just trusted too far.
be down.
Yeah, now kicking.
I think you're one step ahead.
2 or 3 times.
Kick him.
Right foot kicks his stomach to bring him down.
Has to be left foot. Right foot, you're going to kick him in the face and get him upset.
Turn and then just lift it up. If you face me and then kick. Okay, right.
Well, he's down now. You don't need to kick him now.
Once he's down, your left knee goes onto his right shoulder blade. Push his right arm towards his head. Do a forward somersault to break his shoulder.
You didn't have to read the last one.
Okay, let's do this together. Okay. We're
I'm
gonna
gonna
start
need
with-
you to switch that.
What? Okay.
One time this
We're
side,
here.
one time the other.
This is here, okay? If he wants, he can bend a little bit, okay? Oops, sorry. Nose or eye? Eye, I'm sorry. That's secret technique. Okay, here, you're gonna reach over, you're gonna turn this as you extend over. Okay, from here, he's still up, not down far enough. I would kick, at this point, I would kick him with my left foot. You kick a person in the face, and unless you really take them out with that, they are going to be mad at you. Okay? You don't care about their emotional perceptions at this point. You want them down. Okay? And a kick here is going to be more likely to put them down than a kick to the face. Okay? You're here, you're going to take them down. Okay? And all I have to do at this point is bring my knee. I'm trying not to put all my weight on here. Turn your head the other way, sir. Thank you. Other way. I can't. You can't. Turn your head the other way.
I can't.
Yes, you can.
He can only put his nose down.
You don't do the- Okay. Now, and that's where, now, you can put all your weight on here, okay, which is not nice. And then you can do a front somersault. And that finishes it up. Now that's if you're in a situation where
It's survival.
it's survival. Okay, that roll, myokini, will dislocate, separate the shoulder. Okay,
Okay.
it's a very expensive surgery. It's very debilitating. He is not going to get up and chase you,
And they'll never fully recover.
and they'll never fully recover.
It'll never get full use.
All right, let me see it again with you on that side,
Okay.
Byron on this side.
Okay,
Byron, loves the kids.
we'll go easy. I'm trying to go easy. Now, one of the things when you become sensei and you see sensei doing this stuff, and Uke is screaming his brains out because sometimes because he's a great actor. What you have to realize is that you really can't put all your weight on their shoulder at times, on your Uke shoulder. And this is why, as a student, you have to learn how to shift your weight and balance, and learn how much pressure you're applying. Because when you become instructor, if you rack up your ukes, you're going to have the uke out here demonstrating the straight technique. There isn't going to be anyone to show it to. Okay, so you have to. This is why you learn this stuff. Okay, so we're here, grab here, here. We're going to straighten out and turn. Okay, if we need to, we're going to give it a little health kick. Okay, take them down. Okay, left knee is going to turn your head the other way, sir. Thank you. Okay. And then from here, you can either put full weight on it, and then you can do your front somersault in that direction, not that way. Okay. Now, the verbal commands. When a person goes down, you're going to have to give them verbal commands. You have to keep them simple, like you're talking to your dog. Sit, stop, run. Okay. I get the word sir because I work with law enforcement agencies, and it's kind of done with a touch of sarcasm when it's done on the street. Sir, please turn your head the other way, you know. And they could just say turn your head the other way. But there are people around, and that's a politically correct way of doing it. Okay, a sad commentary. And the reason my students know this, the reason you have them turn their head the other way is because they're more comfortable for the short term, but that also allows them physiologically to get their shoulder down to the ground so you have a strong base. Okay? As long as they're looking at you, that shoulder is not going to want to go down all the way. So, plus you don't want them to see what you're going to do. Okay, so we're going to have you come out and try this one. This is really simple, just 3-4 times a piece. Problem, and it's all in getting the shoulder down. When you take this person down, okay, and you kick them or what have you, they're down. Some of you are stopping here and putting your knee in the shoulder, and you're wondering, why can't he turn his head the other way? Okay, because your pressure is downward in this. Your pressure, and I'm not putting any weight on it. Your pressure is downward in this direction. He can't turn his head the other way. Doesn't matter how many pleases you say or what you do to him, he can't turn his head the other way. It's physically impossible. When you bring this person down, you have got to get their shoulder, turn your head, turn your head. You've got to get their shoulder down to the ground. Okay? Then you put your knee there. Okay? That's the only way you're going to get him to turn his head. And if he's up here, and you try and do this technique, you really have no leverage to go forward. You try and go forward. What I want you to do here is lean forward a little bit, roll out of this. Just roll out of it. And ask if you're balanced. And you aren't. Okay? Because he's the only thing that's keeping you off the ground. Okay, so get the shoulder down. So I want you to get the shoulder down. Okay? Let's go. Sorry. Okay, when you get this person down, 10-3 technique. Okay. When you, upper ranks, black belts, you are going to learn the secret of how to get people to go down and snap the finger, and nobody sees what you've done. And they wonder, how did you do that technique so fast? Okay, what happens if you get this person down, and you're here, and you can't, you can't get them to turn their head the other way for whatever reason, okay? And even if I get him down here, all you have to do, there isn't really too much you can do. Just shift your weight so you can get your knee into the ribs. Not the ribs, back, and then put your weight there, and now add some weight. Turn your head, sir. And turn. Turn your head. He will turn because you're applying pressure in that direction. Okay, it's not downward any longer, it's to your left. And you're going to have to move a little bit with him. Okay?
He's taking the pressure off the shoulder.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. No, we're cool.
Okay. Oh, Ikinagi, this easy technique. Okay, okay, we want to uki. Okay, uki. Okay, nice little volunteer. This is so dirt simple.
Get him before he reads the end.
Okay, what?
He just gets the name of the technique, he's got to take his chance.
Okay, technique, what's it called?
Urinagi or Hikinagi.
Urinagi, Hikinagi. Okay. Okay, this is dirt simple. He's grabbing you or he's down on the ground and you pull him back up in the standing position because you want to throw him a second time. Okay? So all you're going to do is grab sleeves. Okay? Most of you know this technique. If he's on the ground, answer. Thank you. Get up. You tired yet, sir?
No.
Good. Give me a... Okay. That's Toto. That's it. Okay. So it's much like the person who grabs your wrist. Same concept here. Grab. Take him down. It's the same technique.
And one time from that position, you on this side, him on that side. No, you on that side.
Me on this side. Here, want to do the wrist one or?
Don't care.
Yeah, this is double wrist grab. This works really well if the guy's pulling you, and you can dance with him. And once he's really going, you just get around behind him, and as Mark said, let him do all the work. Okay. All we're going to do is here. This time I'm going to grab sleeves. If you don't have sleeves, grab the wrist, hook the wrist, C-grip. I'm going to grab sleeves. This is a variation. Okay, step in, around. Crossing, and I'm going to pull with my left as I turn all it is. And then if he gets up, get up. Get up. See, we've got the sleeve here, out and down. And you can do this all day. This works well with judo gi, but most other regular clothing, you rip the sleeves off after you do this a couple, 3 times each way. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so, do we need to do this one?
No.
No. Okay, this is simple. You're lucky. Okay. Okay, you can bow on that. Okay, next one is...
I said 286.
286. Outer winding through with armbar. Ude Gyaku Wazu Shiro. Your right hand grabs the back of his right hand from on top. Okay. Okay. Someone read me through this. I need a, okay. Okay. Jared. Okay. Knuckle grab.
Your right hand grabs the back of his right hand from on top. Your left hand hits his left elbow up as your right hand turns his right hand to your right.
Okay.
Turn your body to your right too. Bring attacker down onto his stomach.
Turn your arm for a little bit.
Okay. Your left knee goes onto the back of his upper arm. Sit on his shoulder blade.
Oh. Sit on a shoulder blade or?
Your right,
Oh, I know.
your left knee goes onto the back of his upper
I know what
arm
you're supposed to do.
and sit on his shoulder.
Sorry, you okay here? Okay.
Hook your left knee as low as possible to near your ankle under his forearm.
This is not easy to do with a knee replacement.
And straighten your left leg to execute the submission.
Okay, now, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No problem.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was where my neck was starting to say no.
Oh, okay.
Apologies.
Okay. Basically what you are doing, okay, and it helps if you have longer legs. Who was here yesterday? Jonathan Blaney, who has legs that are maybe 3/4 of his height. Not really, but okay. What you're basically doing is you're coming right, your left leg is coming under here and then hooking. Do this in my arm. This is essentially what you're doing. And you're sitting on his shoulder. And if you straighten the leg, it sets the arm bar. Okay?
So you're moving his arm towards his head.
Yeah, because as you straighten your leg, his arm will come up towards his head. The trick is you've got to get your foot over his wrist. Okay? This is almost like doing this.
The other foot comes first.
What? The other foot's not involved.
Oh, okay.
Okay? The right foot's just opposite.
Use the arm there.
Yeah, if you bring the right foot, and some people do, they bring the right foot over and they try, and what happens is it brings everything up and it weakens the whole technique. Okay, so you've got to bring him down, and all we did to bring him down, which is here, look, come under, bring him down, it's not rocket science, okay? You then go over him, I'm going to sit down, I'm not doing it right here. Bear with you, you okay? Turn your head the other way, or which is more comfortable?
Try this one first.
Okay, I'm going to sit on him, okay, and this is under here, this is the hard part, and I can't do well anymore. Get this foot to come over his wrist, and then you straighten out your leg. What? Pardon? I can do this, but, yeah. It's one of those techniques that one of you might, you want to try this one of you might like it. I would never rely on it. I've never been able to do it well. I have short legs, which is the problem. I'm not anatomically suited for this technique. Okay, anyone want to try this one, or we just,
No.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
One more time.
Now, if you have to sit on someone's shoulder, do it slowly, okay? Because that's a lot of weight. Okay, next one, 284, and the next one is
298.
286?
298.
Okay, 298, hand throw, Tainagi, knife thrust. Okay, knife attack. Okay. In terms of safety, we use wooden knives here. They're cheaper than the rubber knives. They last a lot longer. The downside is, if you let go of them, they go flying off into the sunset, going one student's ear and out the other. okay? The other problem you have, so you don't let go, okay? The other problem is, bless you, is I had a student once who was a brown belt many years ago, and his infant wisdom, I file these ends down, so if you buy them, please file the point down, because he decided to block it with an open hand, and it was beautiful gash right down, right across the spine. Fortunately, it did not do any damage to tendons or stuff like that. He ended up with a kind of a messy looking scar. He was kind of proud of it. I mean, kids are proud of weird things. But it was a learning experience for him, okay? So after that, I always, when I buy these, I think they're about $3 or $4 a piece, wholesale. Make sure you file the end out, just for safety. Okay, I need it, okay. I'm not sure volunteer. Okay, now, one of the things Mark mentioned this morning is if someone is coming with a straight knife attack, and a person who is a proficient knife fighter is rarely going to come in with a straight thrust. Okay, it's a very effective technique if you don't move. Okay, okay. But again, the easiest way to get out of the way with a straight knife thrust that's come in is to move one leg. Okay, if you try and move both legs or side step, you are going to have a hole in you. Okay, a hole in one. So you got to get out of the way. Okay, so what I'm doing here, however, this time is this asking for a juji, a cross block. Okay, and so he's going to be coming in. I'm going to block aggressively. I have to keep this, you know. If I do a flaky block, I'm still going to get a hole in me. Okay, so this has to be a very aggressive block. Okay, you can even, if he comes in, you can even get to the side to an extent and cross block it. I don't care. Okay, this is whatever you feel safer with. Okay, what's next?
Deflect his knife hand to your right. Your right hand then grabs his knife hand with your thumb to the back of his hand. We're setting up a basic Te-Nagi.
Okay, now we're going to execute Te-Nagi?
Yes. It does.
Yeah, bend his hand in, bring it to the left in a counterclockwise arc, bracing it with your right hand as you pivot your left foot back as you execute a standard hand
Okay,
throw.
now, so we turn the camera off, although I'm sure this is on many videos. Side throw.
What number?
299.
Thank you.
Cross your right hand, okay, right. Oh, Psycho, Yokonagi. Oh, let me borrow Jared. Okay, what's the...
Two-hand wrist grab. Both hands.
Hand wrist grip.
Can I have you back up just a minute?
Okay, he grabs.
Cross your right hand arm under your left hand.
Now, he has to keep hold. This is one of those neat techniques that works if the attacker keeps hold. If the attacker lets go, you no longer need to do the technique. Okay? So he's going to keep hold. Okay, and he's giving me some resistance, so he's gripping good. Okay, so left hand is going to come under.
Right hand under your left hand.
You had it.
Right the first time.
There.
Okay.
Right hand under left hand, thereby crossing his arms as high as possible, close to his body. Ideally, your left elbow, facing up, will be braced against his right elbow, which is underneath. Pivot your left foot back.
Wait. What did we say about the elbow?
It's a right-left arrow.
Yeah, it's a right-left arrow, yes.
Okay.
This is, hold on.
Your right elbow
There we are.
will
That's
be
not it?
braced against his right elbow.
You were fine.
First time?
You were fine.
You were fine.
Okay, read it to me again.
Okay. Right hand goes under his left.
There.
Ideally, his right elbow will be braced against your right elbow.
Okay.
Okay.
Pushing up against his.
Pivot to your left foot back. Your left hand pulls towards you at the same time.
Okay. What you have to do here, it's not in there. Okay. I'm not going to assume he's going to keep hold here, because only the brain dead would keep hold.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, because it's not gonna happen. So what I want you to do is take this hand around and set a C grip. Okay, now I can do the technique, and take him down to this pattern. Okay, if you can do this fairly fast, okay, and bring this over here, and he's gonna keep hold, you can do it. Okay, you just have to move. It's a simple technique.
So we add to that your left hand counter grabs.
Yeah, your left hand can kind of grab for a more secure hold. So all you're gonna do is, we're gonna have you try this one, but this person has to keep hold like their life depends on it. You have to realize in the street, people are going to grab hard. And if you get bruises around your wrist from people's grabs, that is probably what you're gonna get on the street. Okay? And all and he's resisting. If you want, you can step in, you're just gonna come in, here. That's all you're gonna do. He's gonna keep hold. All I'm gonna do is step my left foot back and pull. Okay? If you want, you can come up under his arm. This is more important, it is more important that, it is more important that when you do this, you're in tight. Okay, so you have your center line, or I'm perpendicular to his. Okay, we're following marks and Thomas's. I mean, everybody's speaking the same language this weekend. Okay, I'm on that Z-axis. Okay, this is what's going to make the technique work. So we're going to have to come out and try this one too. If you just do it, it's simple. If you're going to think about it, it's going to take you some time. Thank you. Ube waza, ube yokunagi. You gonna be okay? Okay.
Yeah, this is some.
Okay. Someone needs to read this to me. Okay, there's no sound grab over on this side. I think it's probably be better.
Back a little bit.
Okay, one more.
Slip your right thumb under his thumb. Grab around it, push it back and down. Retract your thumb as you slip your hand over his, so that his thumb is pointed down towards the outside edge of your hand in your fist.
I'll show it. Okay.
Thus off balancing.
And we're going to do the throw.
Okay.
You're taking the side. Okay.
Continue.
Okay. We need to show this part because this is the hard part. Okay. Let's do it without the lapel grab. Okay. And you guys can move around so you can see what's happening. Okay. I'm going to grab his thumb around it. Okay. Brace with the index finger. It's, figure 4 arm lock, figure 4 arm bar, same concept. Take him off and down. Okay. From here, I'm going to rotate. Thumb out. Okay. This is all we're doing. From here, and I'm not showing this at the right angle, but I'm showing it so you can see it. I'm going to go out and over. Okay, from here, over, thumb rotates underneath. Grab the thumb, like an udder. Raise it up. He say mutter. Okay? Then you're gonna, all you have to do, you can throw him anywhere you want with this. Okay? Person gets a broken thumb, it's going to break at the base. Down here, they will get a cast up above their elbow. It's a serious fracture.
Been there, done that.
Okay? Okay, so you're not doing a little finger break, where the people stick on it and tape and say, don't bend it for 4 weeks. This is a big time cast deal, okay? And then all you have to do is apply pressure to the back of that thumb right here at the base. Okay, I'm going to turn this around for you, okay? Now, why is my finger extended? Anyone know why? First of all, theoretically, it's key. It's telling me what direction I'm going to do the technique. Secondly, it's applying pressure on the other side in that direction, okay? I'm not going to pull this thumb, okay? I'm not trying to milk the cow, okay? I'm just going to point where I want to go, and whether or not he values his thumb, he's going to go, okay? and you just take a nice, you don't need, same thing as for finger throws. You don't, I see a lot of students on finger throws. They go like this, okay, to do a finger throw. And my question becomes, are you doing an armpit check or what? Okay, you can do a finger throw from down here, as long as you have the fingers bent back and you're bracing against the back of the fingers, okay? It doesn't matter how high it is, okay? It's irrelevant, okay? Same thing with this. It can be up here, it can be down here, it doesn't matter. As long as you have it braced, he's gonna go. Okay, so again, I'll do it from this side. Okay, he's here, you're gonna come in, take him back and down, rotate. Okay, that's the only weak part of the technique. If you want to play safe, you can grab with this hand. Once he's back down, grab with your left hand, rotate. Okay, keep him, take his hand away. Just turn it, bring it up, you're set to try. He's set to try. Okay, and that's it. Beautiful. Okay, you can go forward, you can go sideways, you can go backwards, you can go any direction you feel like going. Ask him, what direction would you like to go? And whatever he says, go the other way. Okay, I'm dyslexic. Okay, anyway. Okay. You want to try? You just want to set this up? We have a couple minutes. Okay, let's try this because the hard part is called 604, two-man headlock. Two men come along for two fighters. This comes from Roche's
that makes sense now.
years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. All we're going to have you do is we're just going to have you come around in here.
Ah.
And now I'm going to walk. Yeah, it's just doing the breaststroke.
Swim.
That's all it is. Yes, that's all it is.
Swim in.
Just swim in, swim out.
All right. Fab.
You get that?
All right, so we're going to continue on with what I started yesterday, if I can even remember what I did yesterday. But, of course, those is part 2 of the science of Jiu-Jitsu throwing techniques. Again, real exciting subject, but now the fact of the matter is, I could have spent the entire weekend on that subject alone. You don't get very bored, but I mean, it's a broad area. A lot of what we do of Jiu-Jitsu is all about throwing techniques. Is one of the areas we seem to concentrate on most. So yeah, there are so many aspects to it. I could have approached the subject in many different ways, but I try to keep it simple. I want to try to reduce it down to kind of universal principles. So what I'm covering here, I need to make sure everybody understands, is what I'm covering here is Jiu-Jitsu throwing techniques, and they're what I'm applying it to is what we would call pure throwing techniques, because we all know that in Jiu-Jitsu, as we move into advanced, intermediate and advanced techniques and ranks, that you begin to add things to it. You're never doing just a throw. Some throws are combined with joint locks and things like that. We're using strikes to set up the kazushi or off balancing. But there's a couple of different schools of thought between what is called a throw versus a takedown. And what I tend to refer to as a pure throw is that there is no pain compliance involved in the throw itself. You can do a hip throw, you can do a drop throw, you can do a leg root. In any of those throws, there's no pain compliance involved in setting up the kazushi and the throw itself. There's no pain to the uke or the opponent until he hits the ground. The pain is when he hits the ground. But there's no pain in just going in and doing a basic hip throw. He's not in pain. No pain in doing a leg root. So a pure Jiu-Jitsu throw is just that essence that involves balance and leverage. That's all it is. There's no pain compliance involved. There's, like I said, there's a little bit of a different school of thought of the difference between what you would call a throw versus a takedown. And some schools of thought say that a throw is at what I'm talking about, a pure throw, no pain compliance. You're not adding in a wrist lock to make a hand throw. You're not adding in a shoulder lock to do a rear throw. You're just doing a throw with no pain compliance involved. And then a takedown is once you combine it with a joint lock, then it becomes a combination throw, or that's what they call a takedown. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought is that it doesn't matter whether there's pain compliance involved in it or not. But if he lands on his back, it's a throw. If he goes face down, it's a takedown. And that's how some schools show the difference of a throw versus a takedown. There is something to be said for either one, but it's just different ways that people classify or they give their nomenclature between throw versus takedown. But just so everybody is clear, what I'm talking about here is what I like to call a pure throw. There's no pain compliance in it. There's no wrist lock involved in it as a hand throw or anything else. It's a pure throw that's based on nothing but balance and leverage. Okay? Just so we can understand what the real science is behind it and why those work. Once you start adding other things into it, once you start adding those joint locks into it, once you start adding the strikes into it, then you're adding another dimension to it, and it changes everything. Okay, so I'm just trying to stick with your basic throwing techniques. Okay, so if you were not here yesterday, that's too bad. You will have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay, so you can leave now. No, I'm just kidding. Who was not here yesterday? Okay, I don't know if I have enough of the handouts or not. But let's see. I've got
Stacy,
yeah, and this is your. Yeah, I've got a few here. So who did not?
Geometry.
If you've got a background in non-Euclidean geometry, that'll be it.
But basically, again, the formula was A plus B equals 1. What it takes to get that person on the ground, that's a unit of 1, and it's the amount of ki that I have to supply to the amount of ki that the opponent supplies to the throw, ending up in the ki that we both supplied to get the end result of opponent on the ground, otherwise known as the ki-we factor. So I hope you all got that and you understand what I'm talking about there. Also, on the other side, this incredibly complicated diagram here, understanding that this line running up middle is the line of force or line of attack, where your opponent's feet are, where he may take a step forward or he may take a step back in both resistance and when you try to off balance him and you move him, where the feet are, which way he's going along that line of force. And so it's about always knowing where his feet are, so you know where that perpendicular line is. You draw the line between the feet, and in that perpendicular line between his feet is what we call the Kazushi line, the easiest way to off balance him either forward or back. Okay, or according to this diagram. So we call it the Kazushi line, or what I like to refer to as the imaginary dotted line of death. But you don't have to call it that.
Tasmanian.
Okay. Exactly. Okay, so basically I've got you up to speed on what we did yesterday. All right.
Formula.
What's that?
You forgot
Yeah, you have to explain the formula.
You're right, I forgot the formula. Okay. Now, to do a jujitsu throw, you need to understand that it must be done in two parts. There are two parts to any jujitsu throw. I must first get him off balance, and then I must follow through with whatever motion or direction I was taking. So whatever throw I'm trying to do, drop throw, hip throw, right? I need to get him off balance in some manner or another, either with a push, a pull, a strike, a joint lock, whatever it is I do to get him off balance. And then I can follow through with whatever direction or motion will complete that technique. It must be done that way. It cannot be done in reverse. You can't do the follow through before you do the kazushi or the off balance. It just doesn't work that way. Now the great thing about Jiu-Jitsu throwing techniques is that all of that is designed into the plan. It's designed so that it will off balance them and put them in a position so that you can now make the follow through motion to go ahead and put them on the ground. But it has to be done that way. If he's not off balance, he will not go down. That's just the laws of Jiu-Jitsu throwing techniques. That's just the way it is. Now, I have another handout here that I'm going to pass out. So this started this in, and pass them out. Now, again, I'm talking about I'm talking about universal laws here, universal rules, what works in all jiu-jitsu throwing techniques. So I'm trying to boil it down to that core essence of what makes them work. Now you're going to see there's a lot of different jiu-jitsu throwing techniques, and the page there was some left over. We got any of those left over? Right, so as you see on this page, what I have here, you'll notice the title up there, Nage Tahosu. Okay, maybe an unfamiliar term to you. Okay, that's fine. But the core element of jiu-jitsu throwing techniques, there's one thing you need to understand. Even though there's a lot of different types, a lot of different names, a lot of different variations, a jiu-jitsu throwing technique will not work unless, as we say, you got to get that kazushi first, and then you got to do the follow-through. But you need to understand, in order to do that, you must get the entire body involved in the process. You're not going to do a jiu-jitsu throwing technique with just using your. And I'll go back to, I go back to the koregeshi because it's something that everyone can relate to. That and the hand throw. But again, this is just for an example of this thing. Okay. As I said, this is what we call a combination. We add a wrist lock into the process. Okay, but if I do a wrist lock, did he go down because I did a wrist lock on him? Is that a hand throw? No. All I did was set a wrist lock. If I want him to go down, what do I have to do next? I have to move my feet. Okay, I set the wrist lock with the hands, but that's not enough. The throw isn't completed until I move my feet. That's what I'm talking about. You must get the entire body involved. You got to use your arms. You're going to have to use your legs. However, we tend to classify techniques on whether they are upper body techniques or lower body techniques. Things where we're using our arms to move them, or whether we're using our legs. So something like a hip throw or a leg reap, where we're focusing on the use of our legs to do the technique versus techniques where we're focusing on the use of our arms. So even though every technique must get the entire body involved, the techniques are typically categorized in whether they're upper body techniques or they're lower body techniques. Okay? Now, you see here, it's actually broken up into 3 categories. And the reason we break up the lower body throwing techniques is because the action is so different. Okay? In most techniques where we're using our arms, it's about turning or steering those shoulders, turning the upper body. The only difference is the grip, typically, in what we're doing in doing upper body throws, or the kurumas or wheel throws. The lower body techniques, the motion is so different. The lifting with the hips or the reaping with the leg. And because the action is so different, we tend to take those lower body techniques and break them out into 2 separate categories. So that's why typically you're going to see Jiu-Jitsu techniques classified in that area as wheel throws, where we're using upper body, hip throws, or leg reaps. And I'll tell you why it's broken out that way. I'll use Antonio. Because what we're doing is we're concentrating on the main balance points of the human body. Just turn here and turn this way. Going to spread your feet just a little bit. Okay. What we're trying to really affect is 3 main balance points of the human body. Okay. We've got our upper balance point, which is right about here. It's what we call the heart point, or a shinzo. And if you draw a line right through the center of his chest, it's going to come out the back, right between his shoulder blades, and that's the upper balance point that we want to be able to affect. Now, it is known as the Shinzo point, but we tend to want to have something a little bit more to visualize. So it's not that we're trying to move his heart, because that's kind of hard to get your head around. So we just say, okay, we want to move his shoulders. If we move his shoulders, we're moving that heart point. So the shoulders, it's easier to see, it's easier to visualize, so that's why we call them shoulder throws. Okay. The other balance point is down the spine to the sacrum. Okay. So at this point, the sacrum, your hara, your center of gravity that runs through the center of the body here, it'll come out right at the sacrum, the base of the spine. Okay. That is the koshi, or the hip point. Okay. That's another point that we want to focus on and use that within doing Jiu-Jitsu throwing techniques. How we move that point, how that we can move that point, get them off balance, and we can use that in doing Jiu-Jitsu throws. And the other is the feet. Okay. We talked about that yesterday. The feet, how important the feet are. Okay. I take his base out from under him. I control his balance. Now, understand, again, it's about getting the entire body involved. It's never about just moving one of those points. What you're trying to do is basically set up a domino effect. I want to start here. I want to move this point, which in turn moves this point, and then finally moves the lower points, and he topples to the ground. Okay? So yes, I am moving all 3 of them. That is the goal. But I need to move one first. I need to pick one that I want to concentrate on. If I can move one, then I can get the others to follow along with it. Okay? So by doing that, I can start here and start working my way down. I can start down here. Okay? I move this, it moves this point, finally this point goes down, and I create that domino effect. Okay? On a hip throw, I'll start in the middle. I'll move that one first, and then the other 2 simply have to follow along, and then I can put him on the ground. Okay, so understand, it's not the fact that we're only moving the 1 point. It's simply, we're picking one to work with. And we want the others to come along with it. They come along for the ride. Okay? So everybody understand your basic concept of balance points and how we use them and how that equates to how we tend to classify techniques. Now, some of the names on here you may recognize, you may not. As Professor Kirby was talking about earlier, there's a lot of different names used by a lot of different systems, and they don't always equate. Okay? So don't concern yourself too much about the names that I use in here. If you don't know what they are, if you don't know what the name is, don't worry about it. You probably know the technique, you just know it by a different name. Okay? But that's not important. That's not what we're getting into here today. What I want to get into is how to apply this basic principle, mainly this diagram right here. And I hope all of you have studied it thoroughly, and if you don't understand it, you can ask questions later. I realize it's incredibly complex, but hopefully you'll get it before you die. All right? But that's basically what we want to continue working on in doing our throws. Now, if you apply this principle, you've got the best chance of making your throws work. Okay? Always know where his feet are, or at least know where they're going, and then you know where that best line of Kazushi, best perpendicular line is, the direction that you're going to take them in the throw, and your throwing techniques will have the best possibility of working. However, you must understand there is no such thing as a perfect jiu-jitsu technique. I wish there were, but there's not. That's why there's so many of them. Because if there was one perfect technique, that's all you would need. And it wouldn't do me very much good as an instructor, because you would come to class, I would show you that one technique that works every time, it's infallible, it works in every situation. Take an hour or so, I should teach you that technique, I hand you your black belt and I say, wow, you got it all. That's all there is to it. But that's not the way it is. It's not a perfect world. So no matter how good you get at your principles as well as individual techniques, things can still go wrong. So what you need to be able to do is be able to analyze it and say, okay, what's going on, and what do I need to do to fix it? So that's the purpose of learning how the technique is supposed to work. And then if something isn't quite right, you realize what you need to do to fix it. And this is geared towards sensei, because as a sensei, you need to be able to watch students attempting throws that you've shown them how to do and be able to spot what they're doing wrong and point out how to fix it. But no, you need to be positioned more here so you can take the opponent this way. Okay? And so that's the main purpose of what we're doing. We're covering this broad category that's going to apply to broadly across jiu-jitsu throwing techniques. Okay? So we're going to try to cover as many techniques as we can here. And I'm actually going to cover them fairly quickly because it's not about learning new techniques. Most of the techniques that we're going to use here today, most of you are probably already very well familiar with them. Okay? It's about just looking at them and applying them to this principle that we're talking about here and seeing how they work, why they work, and understanding. And then you kind of get it into your mind what we're doing and what we're talking about. Okay, so that's why I'm not giving you a handout of a bunch of different techniques. The technique is irrelevant. Okay? You can take any technique and apply these principles to them. Okay, so it's not about the technique, it's about the concept. Okay, so let's see. Let's see what we want to come here. Okay, actually this is a technique that we just did. Professor Kirby, so a little bit different in the concept here and how it works, but come over here. Start. I know this is your bad shoulder. Okay, I'll go easy just so you can see what we're doing. Okay, now the attack is different, but you'll see that it's the same technique. So what do we say? When he attacks, I need to move off the line of attack. Moving off the line of attack, I begin to negate this negative key factor. If he decides he wants to resist, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to deal with it because I'm off that line of attack. So when he throws a right punch, yeah, just straight punch, and I move out. Notice I've moved off the line of attack. The attack goes by, and then even if he did decide to pull back, it doesn't matter. It's not going to pull me off balance because he has here. I come in and I try to do something here, and now he pulls straight back. He pulls me off balance. Okay, so that's the concept here. But let's say there's no resistance. Let's start with no resistance and how the technique is supposed to work. So as he throws the punch, I move out, I grab here, I see grip at the wrist, and I grab here at the shoulder. Okay? Now the technique, this is Udeguruma from the outside, and all I need to do is pull this arm, this wrist in his hand down towards my hip as I push up and over the shoulder. Okay, and notice what happens. When he throws a punch, here, I grab and grab. Okay, where are his feet? I'm here. Oh, look where his feet are. So when I want to off balance him, which direction am I going to push? There. Okay, so I pull this hand down and I push over the top of that shoulder and down. And I've got him off balance. Okay, it's really that simple. If I want to take him down, I just continue in that direction. Here, just continue. Go ahead and take him straight down to the ground. Okay, very simple, very effective, but that's it. He did not resist, or I was able to do my technique well enough and fast enough before he got the chance to resist. Okay, so a simple technique, Udeguruma from the outside, and take him where his feet, which direction am I going to take him? Just look, okay, I need to take him that way. Okay, so let's all get up and try that a few times. Like I said, we did it earlier, and it's not about learning a technique, it's about learning a principle. Okay, so get up, try it 2 or 3 times each and have a seat. All right? Let me state this again. Okay? We're working on a principle here. The whole principle is being aware of the opponent's feet and taking him in that Kazushi line, which is that perpendicular line. So I draw a line between his feet, then that perpendicular line is either forward or backward, is the optimum way of off balancing. And we always want to work that Kazushi line. That is the principle. So a lot of you are getting out here and you were trying to take him left and you were not paying attention to that principle. The principle is always know where his feet are so that you know the optimum direction in which to take him. Okay, that is the principle. So everything we're going to do today is all about working that principle. Okay? Everybody understand that? It's about paying attention to where your opponent's feet are positioned and use that against them. Okay? Got it? All right, very good. Now, moving on. Again, it's not a perfect world. That's a great jujitsu technique. It's going to work for you 80% of the time. Okay? However, you still got times that you're going to get somebody that's going to resist what you're trying to do. It may be because you didn't do it quickly enough, or he's just strong, he's got a natural sense of balance, and he can react quicker than you can. Right? That happens, but you need to be able to deal with it. You need to expect that, because if you practice that technique and you think that by itself is going to work 100% of the time on every possible situation, I'm sorry, you're going to get fooled one day, and then you're going to think, I don't understand it. You're going to get hurt because you tried it, it didn't work, and then you're not going to know what to do to follow it, okay? And so it's going to throw you off your game plan, and he's going to reverse it. He's going to take you down, and then you become the loser in that situation. So if you don't expect resistance, then you're going to be in trouble. Because when you get that resistance and you're not expecting it, it's really going to screw you up. Right? But if you expect it and then you do the technique and you get no resistance, great. Oh boy, I got lucky that time. Man, I really got that technique nailed. Okay, good, fine. I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just telling you there will be times when it won't work because you're going to get resistance on that, and then you got to know what to do next. Right? So there are basically two ways you're going to meet resistance in from this opponent. Okay, I use game. Okay? All right. So one way is that when he throws the punch, and I come in to do this technique, and I start to roll this over, instead of him nicely going forward and bending over like that, in doing this, and starting to do this, he decides, I don't want to bend over. I don't want to go to the ground. Okay, so he decides he wants to push back. Okay, so there's many things I can do. I could just go to a completely different jujitsu technique. Okay? That's an option. We'll talk about that later. But if he decides he wants to push back against what I'm doing, okay, what I can do is I can use that against him. So as he wants to resist, what I'll do, instead of trying to continue to push and force this, when he resists against it, instead of trying to continue to push, I'll pull. Okay, notice what happened. When he moved, he had to change his position. Okay, so when I do that, typically what they're going to do, when I pull, they will step forward. Because he starts to move in a different way, he'll step forward with that other foot. Step forward with the other foot. There you go. Okay, now, okay, first of all, it's not going to matter. I'm just using this as an illustration. That's why I want him to do it. It's not going to matter whether he does or not. Okay, I'm just using it to make a point. So here, when he resists, I just pull, and it makes him take that step forward. Now, what does that do? What does that do to the Kazushi line? It changes it. Now it's running this way. So what I'm going to do, he pushes back, I pull, he takes that step, and I continue and bring him around this way. Okay. So I'll change it to a circular motion, simply the fact that I change the Kazushi line. Here, I pull, and then I keep going in that direction. And I bring him around. Okay, so understand what I'm doing? Now again, that's what I'm trying to do. Whether he takes that step or not is irrelevant, because the fact of him having to move the feet, his balance is no longer set. So it doesn't matter whether he moves by doing this, or he moves by doing this. He's still no longer balanced because he hasn't set himself yet. So I can still continue the motion and it will still work. Okay? So don't worry about that. So whether he moves his foot or not, it will still work. So again, he throws it here. I start to do this. He pushes back. I pull and bring it this way. Okay, I'm still doing that. Okay, everybody got the idea on that one? Okay, so get up and try that. Okay, resist. You pull instead of push, and bring him. It's a simple matter of, if he wants to resist, he wants to go in a direction that you don't want to go in. Okay? So I am not changing throw. It's still the same throw. Okay? I just changed the direction a little bit. And what I did was, I made him move the way I wanted him to move. Okay? I just did one simple maneuver. Instead of trying to continue to push and muscle it down, I step back and pull, and I completely changed the direction of the technique. It was still the same technique, I just shifted it from here to here. And that's all I did. With one simple correction, I was able to make the technique work, even once I met resistance. Okay? Everybody understand the point there? Okay. Now, that's just one way an opponent may resist a technique like that. Okay? He'll just simply stiffen up, push back, and add that resistance directly back in the other way. Okay? And I would say probably, based on my experience, that's usually what happens most of the time. If you found that in the dojo, if they want to resist, it's typically how they're going to resist. But you're going to recognize this one as well, because you always get this one student that's a little different from everyone else. Kind of like Byron. And so Byron is going to help you. Okay. So, same thing, same technique, same action, and again, come in, I start taking forward, but again, he doesn't want to go down. Okay? That's how, he just does not want to go down. But instead of resisting and pushing back, what he decides to do is start running around. Okay? That's what I call happy feet. Okay? He's kind of got the idea of ki already. Go with the flow. So he knows he can kind of resist going down if he just, oh, I'll just go with it. And he starts moving those feet. Okay? So basically what you're gonna do, once I start, you're just gonna start walking. Okay? Don't run, we're not there. Walk before we run. Okay. Okay, so he throws a punch, I come in, I push it down, and he starts moving forward. Okay? So when I get the syndrome of happy feet, again, I've got a couple of options. Okay? I can turn it into a completely different technique. I can reverse it and take him back in a shoulder lock and take him back that way, but that's not what we're doing. We're talking about how do we complete the throw that we want to do, even if he wants to resist what we're doing. So when he comes in here and he starts to move around, what I got to do is I got to stop those feet from moving. Okay? That's all I need to do. I need to stop those feet from moving. So he wants to do that. All I need to do is come here and go ahead and do the throw. Okay? If all I have to do is stop him from taking that next step, then I just go ahead and do the throw. So all I need to do is stop him, block that leg so he can't take that next step, and then go ahead and complete the throw. So all you're going to do, he's going to throw the punch. You're going to come in and he's going to do it. He's going to start walking. Just simply step across. Like I just step on his foot. So he can't make that, he can't continue moving those happy feet. And then go ahead and complete the throw. It's about just simply being smart. Use the tools that are right there in front of you. Be smart about it. Oh, I need to stop those feet from moving. How do I do that? Well, just block it. And you can't take the next step. And you go ahead and complete the technique. Okay? So, again, be careful on this one. Go slowly. The whole point of what I'm trying to get across. This does not have to be rocket science. Okay? Keep it simple so that people like me can understand. Okay? That's the part to do. Okay? So it can be very, very simple if you just keep that core essence in mind. What it is you're trying to accomplish, what's the best way to do what it is you're trying to do, and stick with those very, very simple concepts. And it makes everything so much easier. And the point is, it will give you so much more confidence because you can realize how easy it is to fix these little problems that come up, such as an opponent who wants to resist what it is you're trying to do. Okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. Okay? So that was Ude Garuma from the outside. We'll go back to the original Ude Garuma that Thomas started the whole thing off with yesterday. Is again simply using your Kiwi factor and getting off the line of attack and using that against them. Okay, so let's see. Again, I use over.
Don't be generous.
So this time we're doing, it's basically the same technique. I'm just doing it from the inside. Okay, so she throws a punch, I move out, I grab this arm, I pivot back, and how far do I pivot? Pivot far enough that I can bring this across this Kazushi line, this line here. So punch, as I'm coming in, I spot where the feet are, and I know how far I got to turn, so I can turn and pull this arm along that line, and boom, down they go. Okay? So, here, goes a punch, come out. I pivot so that I go past this line. Okay?
I just don't want you throwing her into the cabinetry.
But I do. Oh, okay. No, she's not good. There's enough room. There's enough room. So, it goes here, and I move so that I can pull this arm across here, and down they go. Okay. As long as you pivot so that you can pull that arm along that Kazushi line here, so that it turns those shoulders, takes them off balance, and follow through with the throw. Okay. Now that's assuming no resistance. Okay. So don't give resistance on this, but just do that again 2 or 3 times each. So we did it yesterday. We did a little bit of it today with Mark Tucker's thing, the same basic concept, but just to work on it, because what I'm trying to get you to do is remember, spot the feet. Know where the feet are so I know which direction I want to take them. Okay? So make sure you're spotting the feet. And then run Kazushi. Okay? All right, so just 2 or 3 times each and I'll see. Yes,
Quick question, Sensei. Is there any effort once you're moving in, before you take them down, to move them off balance this way? Okay.
Okay, now, again, that technique works great if you get no resistance. If he puts enough ki into it, enough energy into it, that he doesn't get a chance to stop and resist and try to pull back and go the other way, you're able to grab, turn, hang him on the ground, use that momentum, and it's an easy, effortless throw. But again, it's not a perfect world. Maybe I don't get in there fast enough, or maybe he's got really quick reflexes and he can pick up what I'm doing and immediately decide he wants to reverse and pull back. Okay? So when he throws that punch, I come in here, but he said, no, I don't want to go that way, and he just simply pulls that arm back here. Right? I've lost it because now I got to put way too much effort into doing this, because he's going that way while I'm trying to go that way. We just cancel each other out, and we just stand there looking at each other. So it doesn't work very well. All right. So what's one way we can deal with that kind of resistance? Okay. I did it. Let's say I did it with Denny. Okay. If I really, really want to do that throw, then I can move him in a way that I can change his position, or take him slightly off balance so he's not set, and then I can still go ahead and do the technique. So what I'm going to do, I come in here, when I start to do this, he pulls back instead of fighting it. But he wants to pull back, I'll go with it. And what I'm going to do is, as I go in, I'm going to, okay, see what I did? He wants to pull me in, fine, he'll pull me in. I'll let him pull me in, and I'll let him pull me in so hard that I bump into his chest and make him move. Okay, what does that do? When he has to move, he has to take a step. Okay, he'll take a step back. It'll change the kazushi line, but before he can get reset so that he's got enough stability to resist that anymore, I'm already going into my throw. So he throws a punch, he pulls back, I bump, and step back and do the throw. So from here, he throws, he pulls back, I step back and I do the throw anyway. Okay, so if he don't want to go, but I really want to do that throw, I can do it. I can still make it work, even with resistance. I just move him and then changes his position, and then allows me to go ahead and do the throwing. So that's what you were talking about. One thing you can add to it is once you bump, you can take this and go ahead and kind of push that up a little bit, and you get the circular motion here, and then step back and pull. That will add to the technique, but it's not absolutely necessary. You can still do it without it. Okay, everybody clear on that concept? Okay, move him and just simply change the direction of the throat, and then go ahead and do it anyway. All right, good. All right, try that a few times. As much as I can in here, but we're short on time. And again, I can't cover everything in every scenario. I just want you to take these principles and apply them to any technique you're working on and you're learning. And you'll see how they work and how they fit, and you can improve and fix any technique you're working on. Okay, now, again, we said one way he may resist is to pull back. What's the other way he may resist? He gets happy feet. He wants to move along with it. Okay, so I'll use Antonio. Now, so last time I talked about eliminating happy feet. What did we use to do that? We just simply stepped out with the leg. So my contention is your lower body techniques, your hip throws and your leg reaps, that's actually when they work best. Is because what do? By moving in front of him for a hip throw, what do? You block any forward movement of his legs. Okay, you do step in for drop throw. Step that foot out and drop those, stop those legs from moving, or a leg reap where you just take the leg out from under it. Okay? So my contention here is that because most of what we're doing, we're having to initially start with getting the upper body, trying to get the upper body moving. You're going to start with some type of upper body technique. When that is not working too well, then is when you definitely want to kind of shift your focus and, okay, what am I going to do now? Let me shift this down to a lower body technique. So it's just something for you to think about, something you can play around with in your mind about when would be the best time to use a lower body technique like a hip throw or a leg reap. It would be when I really need to deal with his feet and legs. So you got something else that's not working because of his foot position, or he wants to resist with his feet or move his feet, then something that's going to get in there and block them, such as putting your body in front of it to keep those legs from moving, then you're going to move right into a totally different technique. Okay, so that's another thing that you want to remember, that in dealing with resistance, okay, there are several ways to deal with it. And one way is, as we've worked on so far, is to just simply do something that changes the direction of the throw. If I can do something that you can pull on him or push on him that will change the direction of the throw, and then just go ahead and do the throw anyway, based on that new direction, then that's one way to deal with resistance. The other way to deal with resistance is just go into a whole new throw. Okay, just go into a whole new throw. And this is to illustrate that if part of the resistance that you're getting is those feet moving, a way that you can stop that by going into a completely different technique. So he throws the punch, I come in, I start to do this, and he wants to walk this. Let's turn this way first, okay? So he throws the punch, I come in here, I start to do this, and he wants to walk around, okay? I gotta stop those feet from moving, okay? So all I'm going to do then is just simply come in and do my hip throw, okay? Because the best way to stop those feet from continuing to walk is to get in front of them, okay? So he's going to throw a punch, I'm going to come out, he's going to start walking, that's it, in front of him, and I turn it into a hip throw, okay? I stop the happy feet by simply stepping in front of him so he can't walk anymore. Sets me up perfectly for a hip throw, down he goes. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. Uke is going to resist by trying to run around it. You simply step in front. Do your sail knife. Got it? Okay, very good. Let's try that. Now, again, there's no perfect jiu-jitsu technique. And this inside Garuma is a great technique if you can pull it off. Okay, but you always got to look at techniques and say, well, are there some weak points or anything that could go wrong? And Mark Tucker touched on it a little bit earlier today in that if you really want to do that inside Ude Garuma, I throw the punch and he wants to do that. He wants to do just the basic inside Ude Garuma that we've been working on here. Boom. Okay. He wasn't watching out for that second fist. Okay. And you get clocked right inside of the head. Okay. So, yeah, it's a good technique, but anytime you're moving to the inside, you're vulnerable to that second punch coming in. And if you're not aware of it, if you're not expecting it, it's going to catch you off guard. You get complacent, you practice these techniques in the dojo, and you just do it like this, and then you tend to perform the way you practice. And if you practice something without always considering the ramifications of what you're doing, you're gonna get in trouble. Okay, so you need to understand that not only is there a chance that that second punch is coming right behind it, it's a high probability. And then that second, and it's not the way we practice it in the dojo. Okay, that's not the way it comes. Okay, it's boom, boom. Okay, and it's right behind that second one, and you just walked right into it. Okay, so here's how you want to deal with that. Okay, again, Tucker touched on it earlier, that if I'm going to the inside, I've got to be aware that that can happen. Okay, so I need to be expecting it. So there's a couple ways I'm going to show you here in dealing with it. Okay, one is he throws that punch, and I immediately go for my punch stop. I don't even wait to see if he's going to throw the punch. I just do it. Okay, my punch stop is a palm strike to the shoulder. Okay, that will stop that from coming in, or at least delay it, or take enough energy out of it, so even if he does hit me, it won't be devastating to me. Okay, so it'll slow it down enough that I'm not going to get hurt by it. Okay, so I just anticipate it, and I just go ahead and do it. I don't even think about it. He throws that punch, and I hit that to stop that from coming in. And then all I'm going to do, once I do that, I strike, I follow through, come around the head, and here's my hip throw. Okay, so again, 1, if there's gonna be a second punch coming in. Just assume it. Hit that shoulder, slide right on, hit it, slide right on through it, and go right into your Budoshi. Boom. Okay? Got it? Okay, let's try that. Okay, I'm telling you. All right, there are, again, these are just examples. That's just one way you could deal with that situation. Hopefully you'll find several ways to deal with this, deal with that, and get around the idea of that second punch coming in. You okay to take a throw?
Hi.
Okay. The other thing is this. Okay. Assume that the second punch is coming in. Okay. Know that it's coming in. But what I can do is, I know what I'm going to do. I know I'm going for some type of hip throw. Okay. So I just do it. I don't even worry about the second punch. All right. Okay. We'll do it slow at first, so you can see what as he throws that punch. I know that second one's coming in. I don't even worry about it. I just go in and I do one for my.
It didn't sell so much.
Huh?
Another
Yeah.
it didn't sell.
The thing is, he's trying to hit a head that's right here. If my head, instead of being over here, is on his shoulder right there, there's no way he can hit that. So I go right to it. So when he throws the punch, right in for my obinagi, belt throw. Okay? So here, go right to it, and there it is. I don't even worry about that second punch because it's going to go right behind my head. Okay? Yeah. Okay. I know it's coming, but my head's not going to be there anyway. My head's going to be on the other side. Okay? So I don't even worry about it. I don't worry about a punch stop. I don't try to block it. I just go ahead and do the technique that I wanted to do. So what if he throws a second punch? It's not going to land. Okay? So that's all you're going to do. Start out slowly at first. Start out slowly at first. And then the punch will just simply go right in. Your head is going to go to his opposite shoulder. And you reach around, grab the belt, and to the throw position, and do a behind. Got it? Okay, let's try that a few times before we. I would like to have been able to do several more techniques to help give you more reinforcement on this basic principle, but again, take away from. Okay. But the main thing I'm trying to get across here in doing jiu-jitsu throws, that the key element of doing throws is being able to know where the opponent's feet goes, because this is main balance and basis, foundation, and if you can affect that, then everything else is going to work properly. And that's what I want you to work on in all of your throws, your jiu-jitsu throws. But just quickly, I want to talk about what I have on the back side of this handout, because this is designed for all of you who teach and all of you who plan to teach. So, as I say here, okay, folks, this is, there's no perfect technique. I wish there were, but there's not. So, for every technique you know or learn, and this is for sensei, and this is for brown belts who are starting to experiment with techniques, is that any technique you learn, it can be a great technique. I'm not saying it's not going to be a great technique. It's just that you still need to look at it carefully and analyze what are the advantages and disadvantages of using that particular technique in any given scenario. You want to see if you could do this, if it works well for a punch, will it work for a lapel grab or a rush or anything? How many different scenarios can you put it in and still make it work? You want to analyze where are the possible flaws, that where are the weak points, where might I lose control of this person, or where might he get a chance to resist, pull back, and maybe take me off balance and change who's in control of
the situation. So you always want to look at for weak points in it, and then try to figure out ways to eliminate those weak points. And you can usually find them if you just work with it a little bit. And then you also want to look at what are you going to do if the opponent resists that technique or you can't make it work. Can you do what we did today? Change the direction or change the technique? Okay? So what is it going to give you the opportunity to do if you meet resistance? How can I change something and still get this person on the ground with very little effort and little work? What can I easily move to? What's going to be my plan B if plan A doesn't work? Okay? And when you meet resistance, there are three basic ways to deal with resistance in throwing techniques. And number one is to preclude it. Practice your techniques. Make sure you've analyzed them. Make sure you can do them as well as you can possibly do them, trying as many different scenarios with resistance and without. Just be careful when you're dealing with resistance that the person you're doing it with resistance knows you're going to be doing it with resistance, so they're not surprised and they get injured in it. But do everything you can to make the technique as good as you can make it while you're practicing it in the dojo. And that way you've got a good chance that it's going to work for you out there on the street. Know how to make adjustments mid-technique. What do I need? Do I need to move my position a little bit and get in a better position? Or can I move him a little bit and put him in better position? That's what we worked on today. Move him and then go ahead and do the technique anyway. Right? And the third is take another path. Reverse the direction or move to a whole new technique. And we worked on that as well. So you want to get your techniques as good as you can possibly make them, but understand they still may not be perfect. And you may still encounter resistance on the street, and you need to expect it, and you need to know what to do when it happens. Okay? And then you'll be prepared. Immediately go to plan B, and he won't have time to react to plan B, because you take it in a whole different direction. His mind can't compensate for that fast enough. And 9 times out of 10, that plan B is going to work maybe even better than plan A would have. Okay? All right, any questions on anything we covered today or yesterday? Oh, not good, huh?